What's up, Jesse? Sorry, I had my mic muted. What's up, everybody? I'm going to let Jesse get settled in, and I'm going to welcome everyone. I think that this has been a long time coming, waiting. The audience on my end has definitely been curious about my perspective on Jesse on Fire's Charlie's martyrdom theory. So before he joins us today, and sorry I had you preloaded somehow on the screen, brother, but I wanted to kind of give you my honest read about where I am with this before we bring him up, because I think that you deserve to know or to understand upfront where I'm at before we get into this conversation. I think that, and I've said this before, I don't think that I've seen a better explanation when it comes to what all of the things that has happened after Charlie's death or his demise than Jesse from start to finish. I'm not saying that this is 100% correct. I'm not saying that there isn't a better theory out there. All I'm saying is that I have not seen somebody from start to finish explain how, what, why, all of the inconsistencies, the strangeness, the issues with the people around him, Charlie Kirk, all the way to his family, all the way to his best friends, his business partners, the people that he made wealthy, on top of that famous, on top of that powerful. But again, I'm open to all theories, and that's why I encourage anyone that is against any open discourse in this conversation to pay attention, ask questions, and be open. There's no reason otherwise, and there's no agenda here. The only thing is to try to figure out what could possibly have happened and why. So with that being said, hopefully we can bring him up on stage. What's up, big man? Good to have you.
What's up, dude?
Man, pleasure to have you. My voice, I hadn't had my internet, so I haven't been doing live streams. And then yesterday I was going ham, and all of a sudden my voice just knocked out. So yeah, forgive me for that. But thanks for joining me, man. How you doing?
Good. Good. Reading it's so funny because like this thing, the Charlie thing to me is like not even important anymore given what's going on. And like given what I think is going on, I can't even imagine what this situation must look like to him if I'm right. Like he must be over wherever he's at, smashing his face into a table all day, every day, watching the decisions that got made to put us in the situation we're in. It's like he must just want to. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, but yeah, no, I mean, listen, dude, like I've thought about this a million times in terms of anyone like if I was gonna debate someone or whatever, it's like it's silly because it's like, I mean, there would be no way for me to even present the case any other way aside from with the videos because it's so complicated and there's so many things that went into it. So like I'm like, how would I do this if I'm talking to someone new? And it's really straightforward, and I know exactly how I'm going to handle this. So I'm going to be very interactive with the audience in terms of how we do this, because there's no way to just like present the whole case. It's going to be more like I'm going to ask the group, okay, so what do you guys think this means? I mean, I don't know if I'm right,
For sure.
See, because any other option requires, like every other answer requires people to ignore things that are factually 100% true, where it's like, okay, so if that's what happened, how do you explain this, which is a fact? And it's like, that's the main thing that I say is that like my theory is the only one where you don't have to ignore anything. It literally answers every single question if it's right. You know what I mean?
For sure. Every time that I'm like, hey, did you see this? And then it just turns out to leave more credence to what you said. Is like, that could be explained. That could be explained.
Every single time.
And, a lot of people, they don't want to even entertain this. And before we move further, I did create a QA in my chat on YouTube. So I have a QA open, and my audience can ask questions, and if there's anybody that wants to ask, we can open. He's very just now said he's very open to going to discourse with the community.
And honestly, what would be easier for me to do, like in terms of that, actually, is because I try to avoid reading the chat when I'm live, because not like my own, but when I'm on other shows, because I get distracted too easily. And so like what I'll do is I'll pose a question and then you can kind of see what they say and then tell me kind of what the like the consensus is. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. I can also just see what they're putting up here, and then
That's
members here, if
perfect.
they have some good, honest questions here, and then anybody after that, but I do have, first of all, one thing I've noticed is that most of the people pushing back on your theory have never even watched a minute of the 12 episode series.
Well, of course. That's
so
because
what do you say to those
no
people?
one with an IQ over 100 could watch my series and come out of it like, oh, it's all pushback. And I tested that before I went public with it, where I asked, you guys know Elizabeth Lane, who's the one who did that gigantic post about Erica Kirk that Candace reshared, and then Candace did a bunch of stuff on it. So Elizabeth Lane is a good friend of mine that I've known for a long time. And I met her at a military gala, literally, like, I think it was like 3 weeks after I moved to Texas. And she was there for some reason, I don't know. And I was there with one of my buddies who's a Navy SEAL. He just had me come out, and it was in Dallas. And then I ended up like talking to her throughout the night, and we've been friends ever since. And she's Eastern European, and she just, bottom line is, you can't bullshit her at all. And she's the most stringent, like, fact-based journalist I've ever met. And so as I was thinking about doing it, and I knew it was like, because of how I reacted to the theory immediately when someone first presented it to me, and there's not words I could possibly use to describe how dismissive I was of the Charlie's alive theory when it was first put in front of me. I was like, do you swear on these?
Yeah, you're good.
I was like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, this is ludicrous and not worth my time, and embarrassing that you know, like, it's just stupid. There's no fucking way that Charlie's alive. It's dumb. What possible reason would there be to do it? I watched him fucking get murdered on video. What are you talking about? And that's basically how I always kind of like evaluate how people are going to react to things, is how would I react to thing? And so it wasn't a mystery how it was going to be taken once I figured it out, because it was like, I know people are just going to think I'm insane. But anyway, so I brought it to her because she's even more so that way. And so I tried to explain it to her verbally, and she stopped me in the middle of my explanation. And she goes, Jesse, I'm just going to stop you. She's like, don't do this. She's like, don't do this. She's like, you have a big platform. You're going to do nothing except ruin your credibility. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you what. And I knew she was going to do that. That's literally why I brought it to her. And I was like, I'll tell you what, you watch the first 2 episodes of my series, and if you can straight up look me directly in the face and tell me you still think that this is an insane theory that cannot be true, then we'll bet $100. You know, it's not like a lot of money, but it was just like, because we're friends, you know? And sure. She laughed. She's like, okay, deal. And she watched the first 2 episodes, and her response was, okay, I can see why you think that this might be true, but, and then within a week, she started calling me, and she's all, okay. So let's say that he did do this, and then she's trying to like get into like how, like what the methodology could have been and who was behind it and all this shit. And I'm like, hey, I think I just won the bet. She's like, no, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying if they did this, and she was trying to figure out motive. And then right after that is when she wrote that gigantic post, because the one main point of contention that her and I have is, I'm like, how do you explain Erica's behavior? And she's like, she's a psychopath. And I was like, yeah, I don't agree. I think she's a bad actress. And she's like, no, she's a psychopath. I'm like, nope, I don't agree with you. And then, so when she wrote that huge post, I laughed to myself. I'm like, I think this is her like hardline Eastern European self wrestling with this idea. And so, because like, that's why I always get along with people from Eastern Europe, is they're just no bullshit. And I'm like, I think I might have I think I inspired this post, dude, you know, where she's like, just dug her fucking feet in the ground and wrote like a 10 paragraph, she's a psycho. And I was like, all right, you know, but anyway.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on what, because that was, even still today, when we talk, when you say she's not a psycho, like everybody thinks
Everybody thinks
Erica
she's a psycho.
Kirk is a lying psychopath.
Oh, totally. 100%.
What do you think about Erica and why?
Okay, so I can't say okay, so here's exactly what I would say about it is there is such a clear delineation between Erica prior to when Charlie was killed and Erica post Charlie getting killed, like in terms of the public version of herself that she presents, or just her in general. Because the thing is, like, when Charlie got killed, I had no idea who she was. I didn't even know he was married. I didn't know actually, that's not true. I knew he had kids, but I couldn't have picked his wife out of a lineup. I had never heard her name. You know, I didn't follow him like that close. And so the very first time that I saw her was when she did the speech immediately following him getting murdered, which, by the way, pretty fucking weird. Pretty fucking weird. You ever heard of the wife of a person who got murdered in front of everyone scheduling an international press conference, and she's going to be the one that just by herself is like, I'm going to address the nation as some guy's wife. It's like, when has that ever happened? This is like super bizarre on its face. And my reaction to her was the same as everyone else's, where I was like, oh my God, what is wrong? Like, who is this person? And I felt like that every time I watched her. The thing, like, the timeline of my thoughts on all of this are so easily verified because I make videos about, like, the whole way that I was able to figure it out eventually is because I covered every single aspect of this case and I was 100% convinced. Well, 100, that not 100% convinced. I was extremely confident that it was leftists and that Tyler Robinson had a bunch of help from other leftists, and that that's what happened because of all of the, all of the posts online and all that stuff. And then, and also because I looked at, his surrounding people, and I just read them. I'm like, these people aren't murdering Charlie Kirk. These guys aren't murderers. They're like nerd politic kids that are just a little older now. Anyway, but, so during that period, I was completely dismissive of any of the, any of the theories related to Erica because it didn't even make sense to me. But that kind of like grew like slowly also, because there was a couple months where people were, or at least the first month, like no one wanted to say anything negative about her because it was like, dude, she's his widow. But man, once people ripped the Band-Aid off of like, hey, I feel weird about Erica, like there's something wrong with that woman, it just immediately was like an avalanche. Everybody felt the same. But then when I started looking at the videos of her and Charlie together prior to him getting killed, I'm like, what this person's like, I don't feel the way that I do watching her now. Like, she's a completely different person. And this version of her doesn't make me feel weird because she's just normal. It's like the thing that makes you uncomfortable.
You mean like when you see her in those videos that we watched with Massey and stuff, she looks normal and she seems bright energy. The one where she's applying for that show or whatever.
Oh yeah.
In any of those before she met Charlie, and now we're seeing this very different person. Mm-hmm. And so, are you saying like she is still that person? Is that what you're trying to say? Is that?
I'm saying that if you actually understand,
and is that a front back then? Like also like
no, I think that this is a fabricated. Now, here's the thing though. Her family is obviously very tied in to, these kind of like, I don't really understand exactly how the defense industry interacts with government, but obviously when you have that amount of money being spent with the companies that these people work for, and it's coming from the government, I don't need to be an expert to back into how that works. And so of course they're going to have tons of intersection at a government level, at an intelligence level, at a defense level with the government, and with the people who are the companies that build and, sell the products. Like before I started doing this full time, I was in enterprise software sales, and I was an account manager. And like, I worked with Lockheed. I worked with Tesla. The last deal I did before I went full time in podcast was was selling and then managing Tesla, like when they were doing Tesla Bot, you know, like the robots that everybody knows about now. When they did it with us, they wouldn't tell us shit about that project. Like I knew that they were buying our LiDAR for the test fleet for their autopilot program, because they don't use LiDAR in their in their main in their actual cars. But LiDAR is way more accurate for mapping environments. That's what we sold. And they would use that for their test fleet, and then they would test their camera system against it. But then they were buying other ones and they wouldn't tell us anything about it. And it was, we turned out it was for Tesla Bot. So like, I'm very familiar with how that works. And like when you have a relationship, like you end up super good friends with the people who are on the other side that are buying. So like the guy who I interacted with was not like his boss reported directly to Elon. The guy I called, he had Elon's cell phone number, and I took him to UFC 2, whatever. I don't know. Justin Gaethje fought Charles Oliveira. I brought him to fucking UFC, and he got pictures in the octagon and shit afterwards. It's like, they're like real relationships. You end up friends with them. And at the Erica Kirk level, or her parents, I assume it's true that it's true that her dad started Raytheon Israel, right? Like, has that been 100% verified? Is that true?
I haven't been able to 100% verify it. I get a lot of mixed information. I've looked over and over again. I think that he's somewhere in the background. I'd have to look in my notes. It's been a while, but from the overall consensus, I'm pretty sure he has something to do with either Raytheon or a company that's working as a contractor with Raytheon.
Okay. And Israel specifically. And then her mom worked for General Electric for a bunch of time. And then when she went off on her own, was doing defense stuff. Anyway, bottom line is, like, it's not hard to see that Erica's for sure like tied into these like really wild communities, like that are, doing intelligence work and doing all this stuff, and which would explain exactly how she'd end up with Charlie Kirk, who has been tapped on the shoulder to be a presidential candidate at some point. Like, this is what I'm saying is, like, TPUSA, I don't think people actually understand what an organization like that exists to do. Like, they look at it and they're like, oh, it's, I don't know, like, they go out to colleges and do whatever. It's like, dude, this is an organization that exists to create, groom, and then run and make sure that candidates win. Like, this is what they do. You know what I mean? And then they have tremendous political influence. And what I'm surprised by is how they seem to still be living. They're trying to live in the old and new paradigm, where the old paradigm is what they're doing with Erica Kirk, and it failed, blew up in their face completely, which is like okay, we create this like robotic, political candidate, and they go out and then they're on the stage and are doing fireworks and it's dirt, like all that stuff that people are like, look at her, the grieving widow doing the fireworks. That's like what TPUSA does. They miscalculated that. So if they really wanted to launch Erica's political career to where she could have been the vice presidential candidate with JD, all they had to do was take 6 months off. Fucking hide her for 6 months. And then as TPUSA would have expanded, like, have you looked into the amount of expansion TPUSA has made since Charlie died? It's fucking unreal. Like, the number of schools and like, I don't know, like I looked it up. It's insane. Like, they've gotten so much bigger. If they wanted Erica's career to launch and for her to be a genuine like powerhouse candidate, which this would have worked if they didn't make one specific miscalculation, all they had to do is hide her for 6 months and then start leaking stories through X and then leaking stories through the papers and all that stuff, where she should have given that speech where she was like, you have no idea what you have just unleashed on the world. Remember in that first speech when she said that? And then she disappears for 6 months. And then you start leaking stories that's like, dude, Erica Kirk has been working 80 hours a week since Charlie died. Like, this, they're like, she's possessed. And then they start posting stats about their growth and all of that stuff. And then like people will be like, dude, have you been hearing about this stuff about Charlie's widow? And then you name her CEO publicly, and then you launch her career. And then people will be like, bro, this chick is a fucking monster. But they fucked it up. and they did it immediately following. And then so everyone's like, what's wrong with this chick? Like, it was such a drastic miscalculation on how to do that rollout, and it cost them the entire plan. Plus, Candace just absolutely annihilated them,
And she's still going.
Oh, bro, dude, she's eating them alive. Like, that's what I'm saying. Candace is the worst enemy to have on planet Earth. Like, she will eviscerate people. But anyway, so how the fuck did I talk about this? Anyway, bottom line is,
You
Erica,
went way off.
yeah, this current state Erica is a manufactured thing. And the old version of Erica, which I believe is the real one, is just like a regular person who's in an environment who happens to be good at public speaking, or, they thought. And so when I'm like, this one makes me feel uncomfortable, this one doesn't, that right there is probably the real one. And like, so yeah, I don't think she's a psychopath at all. I think she's just a bad actress. You know what I mean?
I do have a question from the audience, but I do want to address this. I am not Jewish. Nothing against Jewish people, but I'm not Jewish. I'm Christian. Just in case anyone was wondering. All right, so we have a member, Susan. She's been a big advocate.
This question is great.
Yeah,
and I've seen this question a lot, and it's an excellent question, because if my theory is correct, it's Charlie behind the scenes running TPUSA. So like, it's a completely reasonable and fair question to ask, which should.
And that gets very deep when you say that. So how is it there? Like, one, to her question, like all of the things that he was pushing against, they bring in immediately when it comes to money, when it comes to Ben Shapiro, when it comes to just everything, it seems. And then also, let's give a little backstory on when you started coming to this idea of he could be controlling everything behind the scenes, is when I started finding this evidence of a surveillance operation, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're rolling it out through all the schools, the geofencing. So
I had already gotten the conversation. When you told me about that, was in the conversation where I was explaining to you verbally why. That was when I first figured out what had happened. Like, it was when I first figured it out. I was only 80% there at the time, probably. And then you explained that to me. And then, because there's so many moving parts that it's hard to explain, but like, I actually saw this article about how certain types of brains work, and it described my brain literally perfectly. And it's like, there's certain like people where in the background, your brain is running simulations all the time. Like, so it like taking in information, especially about people, and then it just runs it out. And it's like, okay, so if this person did this, then what would happen? And so like, for me, stuff like this, it takes a while to marinate. So like, you gave me the geofencing thing and all of this stuff with Peter Thiel and Palantir and all of that. And then I was like, okay. And then it took me like 48 hours of that just going before I was like, and then that ended up being a large piece of what I believe is going on. But in terms of this question, this is another one of those questions that I think comes from a place of people not really being able to grasp how many different agendas are converging all at once in an organization as large and powerful as TPUSA. So like, I think that there is not a small piece of this where Israel could have very real been a threat to Charlie, and that's potentially part of why they would have done this. I think the main reason was Charlie was absolutely terrified of going to prison, and I think that and then they, create this whole, this whole thing about, if we pin it on leftists, then look at what happened with Butler. And that was the thing where from when Butler happened, Trump immediately, jumped in the polls to a place where he was not going to lose. And that being a blueprint, it's like, why don't we do that again? I can take myself off the map to where I'm never going to have to worry about going to prison. Because if Trump lost, I don't know if people have not seen my series, then they might not even know. If Trump would have lost, Charlie was going to prison, period. Like, this is not like theory. It's not hypothesis. It's a fact.
They had a whole operation, Arctic Frost, and then it got halted once the admin came in, right? So
100%.
And it wasn't just TPUSA. It was like 90 plus organizations, people, entities that were under investigation for nonprofit fraud in a sense of promoting and advocating for a specific person when you're a 501c3 for politics. You just can't do that amongst a variety of things, which I've talked about on my channel when it comes to the finances, allegedly. So,
but to be clear about the nature of that investigation, this is also not debatable. This is just objectively what was going on. Is when Trump won the first time, right? Like no one's going to argue against the fact that Trump had probably the most powerful set of enemies domestically that any public figure has ever had in the history of politics. And when you took like the collective institutional power that they had in 2016 when Trump won, the way that they dealt with him was they used all the people who were in the positions of power in government to just make sure that he was not able to do anything crazy. And they locked in his ability to like institute change. And then they hit him with the Mueller investigation on the Russiagate stuff. So they kept him busy with, defending against the Russiagate stuff with this multi-year. It literally took 3 years for them to go, okay, you're under investigation too. Here's the conclusion. And special prosecutors, which Mueller was a special prosecutor, they have absolute, like complete carte blanche to look into anything. It's unbelievable the amount of investigative power that they have. And so what they did is they went in and they just dismantled Trump's organization. So like Trump didn't end up getting arrested or going to prison. And so there was nothing there, but all the people around him, the key people that got him elected, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, what's his name? That interviewed Epstein, Steve Bannon, all of these guys got caught cases, all of them. And all of it came out of the Mueller investigation originally. So they were targeting Trump's entire group, right? So the Mueller investigation ultimately gets concluded, I believe, like in 2019 when they come out with the Mueller report, and it turns out whatever, blah blah blah. But like, and everyone's all, oh, it was a nothing burger, and the basis of the investigation turned out to be not true. But they put cases on all of these guys anyway, like all of the people around Trump, and that's the real purpose of what they were doing, was to bury these people that were, in the Trump sphere that had power and influence. Paul Manafort being the one who was the head of his. Like he was kind of like the top guy who got Trump elected in terms of his campaign. So you fast forward into now the second iteration of what they're doing, because Trump didn't go away. They tried everything to get rid of him, and he didn't end up going away. So now they're doing it again to try to make sure that he can't run and win again. And so now they do another special prosecutor. This time it's Jack Smith. And so like the way I would explain it is like, remember when we were in Iraq and there was like the deck of cards and it was like Saddam Hussein's the ace of spades. And then there was like, so you have targets, but it was like Saddam's the ace of spades. And then like his sons were the clubs and whatever. The head of, the top general is the ace. And then you go kings and like, they're, we got the Queen of Hearts today. It was some fucking whatever colonel. Charlie was literally, you're talking, he was one of the aces. You probably had Trump, maybe Don Jr., Charlie, top of the target list. And Charlie knew that. He knew that he was being targeted, and so was TPUSA. And we found that out because after Trump won, Charlie, like it's all on video. He asked, he said, do you want to know why I cried when Trump got elected? And the guy was like, he's like, it's because Joe Biden used the federal government to target me and target TPUSA in the Jack Smith investigation. And if I knew that because Trump won, I might be able to watch my children grow, or I might be able to raise my own children. It's you look at his face, he's not making this up. And that kind of thing, it's like, you have to be able to put yourself in the life experience of a person who is experiencing that, because Paul Manafort, who is the equivalent guy to Charlie in the first investigation, this guy was small time compared to Charlie. Like he was doing work over in Ukraine, like whatever. He's like, Charlie is one of the most, he was literally one of the most influential political actors in the country. And he was Trump's lieutenant. And all Charlie has to do is look over at how they did Manafort, who got 7.5 years in prison. And then you think about what TPUSA was doing, which everybody who watches Danks channel knows, like finance, on the finance stuff, like all of this stuff, and I've made this clear and I say it every time. I don't have any ethical issue with people creating LLCs and hiring themselves to like do the marketing for TPUSA. I don't give a fuck about any of that, but it's not legal. I don't think, You know, like it's like there's
No,
like
it's
direct,
not.
yeah, double dipping, all that. So
Not if they're getting paid on the payroll or they're
exactly.
in a board member, senior position of power. Yeah.
Yep. And so if you're the CEO of a company that is as like almost standard operating procedure, all of the top insiders have all of these LLCs set up and they're taking in 100 million and they're paying out millions to themselves. Like there's no way to hide that at the point. Like all your financials are public. So you know Jack Smith has access to those. And so if you're Charlie and you got 2 young kids, like I have 3 young kids. So it's real easy for me to imagine what it would be like knowing that that's coming after me. Like that and Jack Smith and like these guys, the special prosecutors, you're not like, these are not, you can't negotiate with these people if you're Charlie. Like this is like a wartime situation where if they want you and you have this hanging out, you're fucking done. If we don't win, you are going to prison. As sure as gravity exists, he's going to prison. And so if you understand how Charlie's brain works, like this guy, everybody's been consistent about, he was a freak of nature in terms of like, he was always building. That's how he built TPUSA. He's just one of those like one of a kind dudes. And you think about him being in that situation and he's got to find a solution to this in case Trump doesn't get elected, but Trump wins. And he's smart enough to know, like, they might not be in power forever. And what's going to happen as soon as the left gets in charge again? They're going to fucking bury him. They're going to put him in prison for sure. And he knows it. So
yeah. And
that ends up being the baseline for why he would do this. But like, in terms of getting back to the original question of like them going against what he said, it doesn't change the fact that TPUSA is built around a ton of donors. And there's a lot of people who have tremendous influence there. And so Charlie is constantly trying to navigate, you know, like these people have influence here. These people have influence. You got all these evangelicals there that are clearly like just overtly, oh yeah, Christian Zionism. What the fuck are you talking about? How can those two words even go together? And they're all part of TPUSA. You can't just like weed all of those people out just because you clearly think this thing or this thing. And I think what happened too is that I think Charlie slowly came around to the fact that if a foreign country owns 3/4 of our Congress, that they're the ones who are actually the biggest threat. And it's like, but he's taken their money. He's taken their money forever. And so it's like, he's in this impossible position. Can you imagine what it must feel like to be, I don't know, think of like any influencer who clearly has taken their money and they're out every single time that a video comes up and they're all, can you believe that they're doing blah, 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 blah. And you're like, it must feel like acid in your mouth. If you're actually a person who cares about America, you know what you're saying is fucking bullshit and you have to keep doing it. And they keep giving you money. Like that would eat my soul from the inside out. And I think Charlie was in a very, very, very challenging situation. And even if he takes himself off the map, that doesn't mean he could just weed all of them out and then just completely, cut that entire movement off. But in terms of the Ben Shapiro, what's that?
Well, I was going to say, well, go ahead and I'll after you.
All I was going to say is about the Ben Shapiro thing, because people bring that up a lot, is I think that if they took his money and they let him talk, but they made him speak first. And if you think that that's by accident, you're crazy. They made him go up and first thing go, Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are, anti-Semite terrorists that are dare. And then what happened? And Steve Bannon, blah, blah, blah. And because he went first, that shows you what Charlie actually thinks. Because now every person that Ben called out gets to go up on the stage and go, oh, is that right, Ben? Why don't you, every one of them gets to go respond. So the fact that he let him in, but made him go first, like that's a perfect metaphor for what I think you're looking at. It's like, yeah, he let Ben come on, but he made him go first so that they all had an opportunity to respond to him. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you always have such interesting perspectives on all of these things. But to go on more of what you were just talking about, the Operation Arctic Frost, which I made a video about it on my channel. You can go check it out. It basically is this. Look, if Charlie is taken out of the picture, anything that could have been potentially taken to court for fraud, first of all, the Black Lives Matter person, that I guess the head lady, She took, I think it was like $3 million. That's what she was convicted for, I believe, and was sentenced to like 400 plus years in prison. If we are looking,
which one?
The
Are you talking about Colors? Patricia Colors? That one?
I think so. Yeah, Black Lives Matter, prison 470. I think it's 476 years. Yeah.
I didn't realize she got okay. So sentenced to 42 months.
So this one right here, the phrase 47 maximum potential prison sentence faced by Tashila Dickerson, the executive director of Black Lives Matter Oklahoma, charged with 25 federal counts.
So she hasn't been convicted yet, though.
According.
So she's facing. I was going to say that sounds like
status. Oh, okay. I thought she was convicted. So
no.
But still, facing this in general, facing this is a very scary situation, especially when you don't know what's going to come. And the reason why I mentioned that is because what I found with my non-expertise is close to $20 million, and it's probably even more potentially when you add all of the people doing the insider self-dealing, allegedly, in my opinion. So the thing is, if Charlie is removed from the scenario, since he was the CEO and he is the final input on the Form 990s that go in every year to the IRS, that he could literally take the fall for everyone. So it wouldn't just be him going to prison. It would be anybody that signed off on the alleged misconduct, right? So when you're talking, and it's not just that, okay? All of these people potentially could go to prison over any fraud, over any of the going against 501c3s as a political organization, endorsing candidates, and then also losing their ability to be a nonprofit, losing their status as a political campaign operation as a nonprofit. You lose all of that, and then all the donors' money, and all of this is for nothing. So there's a lot more on the line than just Charlie going to prison. It's the whole operation becomes, it gets killed, right? So that is a huge thing in my eyes, and along with many more things. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and the other thing too is if you're Charlie and you think about the world the way that I do, in terms of like, if all these if you've ever run, like I built one company that was like mine, myself. Like I was the only one who was like, it was my company that I was hiring people. I've been on teams of people and other ones, but like when it's like your organization, you feel this overwhelming amount of responsibility for the people who have come to work for you. If you are wired like me, like it's not, I guess like, there are weirdos who are like, oh, you work for me, I own you. And I'm the exact opposite, where I'm like, I interviewed these people. They had other options. They heard my vision from my voice and they chose to come work for me. And I felt it's like, you feel overwhelming responsibility to them. And like, if Charlie is wired like me, then the fact that not only was he going to go to prison, but the fact that his people around him were also for sure going to also be targeted and go to prison, would it be super overwhelming? And what he did, assuming that I'm right, is when he wrote that email that says, oh, we're doing a DOGE style audit. And everybody's like, oh, there you go, dude. The DOGE style audit was going to uncover all of this malfeasance that the TPUSA people were doing. And that's why they killed Charlie. It's like, no. Like what he did was he wrote an email that said, we are now doing a DOGE style audit to figure out where all of this money is going. And we're going to restructure whatever. And what he's done now, because he dies right after, is when there's a future investigation into TPUSA and those people, they all now can get off the hook because they go, I don't know. They're like, this was the Charlie era. What you're talking about now, all they have to do is run everything clean from September on, and all of his people are safe from prosecution because they could just say, it wasn't my responsibility to know what was what. Charlie is the one who set up all of these financial agreements. And, when we did the audit, which happened to coincide with when he was killed, it turned out that some of these were problematic and we restructured. And that's what we've been doing ever since. And they become safe from prosecution, especially given the fact that there's going to be a statute of limitations that's going to run out at a certain point, because that they're going to be safe for at least as long as Trump and JD are in office, which probably is another reason it makes it very fucking important that JD Vance becomes the next president, because then they know there's not going to be any kind of investigation into them anyway. But like, so he, if you think about it, sacrificed himself to protect his people also. So he makes himself safe, and he also protects all of his people. And this is the main thing in terms of like when people can't get their brain around it, where they're like, dude, it's too, like, it's too much. It's too much. It's like, you only have to sell one person that this is a good idea. One, not 21. And it's Trump. If Charlie gets Trump to agree to this plan, that's it. Cash is on board. JD's on board. And then you talk to the TPUSA people. It's like the president of the United States is on board. Oh, now he's giving us access to military intelligence, going to help us do this at operating out of Fort Huachuca. It's like, this is a thing that would just happen. And then the guys who are in the Mormon group, like, I can't remember which of them, maybe Tyler Boyer, but the LDS group in Utah, like, I have much more insight into this part than anyone who has not worked inside of Utah with an LDS community. Like in 2016 and 17, I worked for a company in Utah where I was the chief product officer of a tech company. And I was the only person in the entire organization of, 125 employees that was not Mormon. The only one. Every other person in the company was Mormon in Utah. So like I tell you, I understand this community. I have an unbelievable amount of respect for that group. Like the LDS community I see them as almost exclusively positive in terms of how they live and the effect on like but there might be stuff that I am not privy to, but from what I saw, it's a bunch of happy families that have each other's backs and whatever. And like, but having worked in that environment, I'm telling you for sure that if you have influence at the top level of the LDS group and that you come to them and you're like, this is why this is so important, you are going to have complete and total buy-in over there in Utah. So that's why I think that is probably why they have a state case, because there's probably people wielding influence over what's going on over there. But yeah.
I do have a question. It's multi-parted. So she basically, Emma Loy, she says, I'll just kind of read the first part. A theory is a theory until proven otherwise. If what you're saying is true, it would need to be proven. How would this be proven? I mean, real quick, I'll just say.
It won't.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Charlie's going to come out eventually on stage to more fireworks or hop out of a cake somewhere. So I think that what you've done is prove it as far as it could be. Unless, is there anything that you're missing that you would say, if I could have this, for sure, it would actually exponentially change the way this output is?
The only gap that I can't accept, and I'm talking the only out of the million things that have been a part of this case, the only thing I can't explain and feel very confident about it is I don't know how they're doing Tyler Robinson. I don't know if he's like, I don't know if he's in on it. I don't know if he's like some, PDF file that they knew was like perusing horrific, like kitty.
She even mentions porn. That too. What happens to Tyler Robinson? We've talked about it. It's like, I've come out with a crazy theory, like maybe he's someone from somewhere else that did a crime that they're gonna, use as prosecuting for this. Maybe he gets a benefit. It's way out there, but
there's just like that's one of those things that I have absolutely no insight into this out, like beyond what anyone else would just theorize. And all I would say is I think you have two options. One is that he is part of a family that is an absolute true believer in whatever they believe that they're doing. And he has agreed to, go sit in jail for a year, like knowing what the outcome of the trial is going to be. Or or there's someone who is he's only actually in the jail, the night before they take him to court, and then they take him back and then he's out of there. Honestly, I don't know. Or given the fact that George Zinn, the day after this thing happened, he gets rung up for having kiddie porn on his computer, and I've talked about this a bunch too, is if you've never seen the episode of Black Mirror that's called Shut Up and Dance, go watch that and just think to yourself, how easy it would be to put George Zinn where he needed to be and have him do exactly what he did in the same situation, or Tyler Robinson also. Like, you want to create a patsy? Simple. You do exactly what's in that episode, what's in Shut Up and Dance. All you need to do is get that fucking kid up on the roof, and no one's ever going to expose what you were doing. No one will ever tell anyone what you were doing. And once he's on the roof, it's over. But the thing is, I have always believed that Charlie is the good guy. Like, I trust his motives 100%, even if I don't fully understand certain aspects of it. And I believe 100% there's no way that Charlie's going to put some innocent kid in prison to pull this off under any circumstances. So either the kid's in on it, or he's done something so, like, he was doing something horrific enough that Charlie's like, we can use that kid. Like, look, and I would say, like, think about this. If you found out that someone was consistently watching like violent, horrific kiddie corn, like the worst stuff, and they were watching it all the time, I would feel zero ethical issue with putting a hot one in that, whoever that kid is. Like, they're 20 years old and it's like, you've been watching this. I'd be like, that they're an unacceptable risk to the community if they this is what they seek out and watch. And if I don't have an ethical issue with it, then I can see that they might not also. But I don't know. It's complete speculation, like total speculation. That's the only part of this that I can't answer. Any other question about this case, I'll be able to answer what's what.
I do want to play this, and I want to ask how, like, I'm going to play this, and I want you to tell me from this to now how you feel about looking back at this. All right.
Okay.
It's on mute.
Just the emotional impact that it had on me personally.
Mass destruction. I guess everybody just freaked
This is when it happened. That day you were doing a live stream, and you have it on record. So
people trying to take care of their own, and we're all trying to help everyone else. We all just, everybody hunkered together, and we got all this. So.
And I'm sorry, Taylor. Was it an outdoor event?
Yes, it was.
It was an.
Oh my God! Oh my God, dude! Oh my God! Seen the video. He's not going to make it, dude. Oh my God.
I mean,
that's like that. Well, so like that stream was literally got a notification Charlie Kirk's been shot, and I immediately went live, and that was me seeing the really gnarly one from the front for the first time, where all the like with the blood in the neck. And I remember, because everybody was like, dude, he's been shot, but like, is he gonna make it? Is he gonna make it? And when I saw that, I was like, oh, dude, there's this. Like, I felt totally fine saying he's gonna die, and I just remember, like, I'm very glad that that's on record, because I feel like the human reaction to seeing that video is very telling about a person just in general. Like, I saw, if you haven't seen Hassan's reaction to it, like, Hassan has
you play it after.
Yeah.
I think in the same video, if I can find it all. Is it in the same one?
Yeah, probably. But he has a nearly identical reaction to that. And it's like, that makes me, I don't know, respect him a lot more. But it does, like, he was very, it was almost identical. I saw that, and it was, and he's supposedly an enemy. He's like a political adversary of Charlie's. And so that kind of, well, I wouldn't say I had like a really well-shaped opinion on Hassan, but like that shaped my opinion of him for sure. Because if I saw that and it was shit, if that was destiny, I would have been like, holy shit, you know, like it was just such a
there is a
like you can show that if you want. Go ahead.
I'm trying to find. Let me see if this is it.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah. Okay. So this is. I found it somewhere else. Here we go. So this is his reaction as well.
There is a closer footage of Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck here as well, where you can oh, he's dead. Oh my God, he's definitely dead. Oh my God, I can't believe I just saw that. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, he definitely got shot in the neck. Oh my God. Oh, fuck.
And when you see somebody like this, and then you know what's
keep it
crazy,
going,
bro? Yeah.
Like let it flush out a little bit with him.
I think it ends right here.
Oh, okay. Well, there's it's much like his actual reaction is much longer than that. He sits there just like I did, where he's just frozen in time.
Let me see.
It's all right, though. I mean, like you got the gist. They got the gist.
Yeah. And then what's crazy though is when we see, I think this is it right here.
Oh, dude. You hear a shot, you hear the crack of a shot, and then you hear his head just crack back right after. And
I actually haven't seen I haven't seen this.
People are saying is correct.
This must be like him rewatching it in the same stream because but it doesn't matter. I mean, like, you know, bottom line is he has a human reaction to it. And it's like
right. And then when you compare Destiny, like that shit was shady. So it's like all of these things.
Kyle Kalinske has the worst one. Kyle Kalinske has the worst one.
I haven't seen that.
Kyle Kalinski's is like, well, Destiny's he's live streaming and you get to see his whole thing, and then but like I know the person who called him on the phone, and
Destiny, that chick.
Yeah, Z. She didn't do this.
What do you think about that reaction? That was like almost expected. Like, like, oh, he is okay. Well, you know, let's talk about this later. Like, if we're gonna add in right your theory, then are they maybe a part of this as well? Do you think we haven't really talked about that. Are they somehow involved? Yeah, the Unfuck America tour, and then the painting or whatever of the on the roof, and then the song. Like, is all of that part of? Have you factored any of that into this? Because you were big on that.
Of course.
For this,
the reason,
right?
So the thing is like the reason I was so. Well, the original reason I never considered TPUSA involved under any circumstances, just me looking at them, I'm like, these guys are not going to murder each other. This is absurd. There's no chance. And so I didn't pay attention to any of those theories because it was impossible in my mind. It's impossible that they conspired to kill him. Impossible. But, and that was further bolstered by the fact that there were like 27 accounts belonging to like trans radicals that were all, something's going to happen to Charlie on 9/10. They're going to get him. Charlie's going to got, you know? And I was like, guys, you guys are just going to ignore all these people who literally are announcing it on the front side, or this dude is cheering in the direction of the shooter, or like any of this. And then we found that there's this trans radical is a member of one of those Utah, supposedly, and named Sky Valdez, who wrote a song called Charlie Kirk Dead at 31. And they released it 3 weeks before he got killed, and put a painting on their Instagram of a person who's in a prone position on a roof with a rifle and a mountainous background behind it that is identical to, it's like they took a picture. It's like they took a photograph of exactly what it would look like if someone took a shot from that exact position. And so I'm like, I don't understand how people are ignoring this and they're just going after TPUSA. This is stupid. Of course these people did it. And when I like the final thing where that was the lightning bolt, where like I told you, I'm like running simulations of all of the things that I know about all the time in the background. If I'm covering a case, that means I'm thinking about it all the time. And so or like in the background. And the thing that was like the puzzle piece that came in, and I just got like struck by the whole thing, and I knew what they did was, I was thinking about Phil, like for some reason, I don't remember exactly what I was thinking, but I was thinking about Phil Lyman, and Phil Lyman, immediately afterwards where the guy goes, "Did you see what happened, Phil?" And he goes, "No." He gives that super weird answer where he's like, acting like no.
Yeah, he's trained the kid and all of that. They're preparing, and then the kid does the preparation on camera there with Phil. He's reading it off. I made a video.
Oh, that's another thing.
Then he goes,
yeah,
and does it with somebody else, and then TPUSA staff or whoever helper removes him from the recording, and he's asking, "Are you recording this?" So, and then I don't know why people have stopped talking about Phil Lyman. He was in such the forefront. Now it's almost like he's forgotten. George Zinn, I found
things for people to keep track of.
Yes, there is. And when you add George Zinn and him falling down, taking the blame, someone told me to do this and I'll get paid. And then he's got the kiddie stuff on his phone. Not only that, I found that he endorsed Phil Lyman on his, I didn't find black, whatever that. And then I brought it out. But endorsing Phil Lyman, this whole weird reaction, Lyman going to the goth girls. I mean, just him alone.
That's the thing.
It was like planting the narrative. And then you've got Jack Hibbs or whatever, asking Adams, Life is Driving, trying to plant this seed. Oh, it was coming from over there. All of these things seem like they're forming this narrative in a cohesive manner at one specific, all at the same time.
And that's what it was the Phil Lyman thing was, I had seen one of the huge pieces of why I was very convinced that it was in fact leftist is because in the week, or probably in the first 2 days after the event, Phil Lyman was on InfoWars, and he told Alex Jones that as the chaos was ensuing immediately following the shot, that he's like, and I talked to these two girls and they were dressed all dark and kind of like gothy. And what I noticed is they're not afraid. They're not afraid at all. And I found that very bizarre. And he said, and then I heard them say to each other, "Fuck these people." And I was like, and I remember being like, oh yeah, hey, let's add that on top of the other 50 leftists that all seemed to know that this was coming. Like that. Are you kidding me? Clearly online, everybody knew. Yep. And then the book that was released on Amazon the day before it happened. Perfect. Yes, exactly that. Right. So all of these things that are building up. Right. And then you have the angle of the Snake Eyes movie, which I'm going to table for a second, because that's an hour-long conversation. But so he goes on InfoWars and says that, and that becomes this huge moment for me where I was like, damn, dude, this is just, of course, the leftists. And as I was thinking about that, and I'm thinking about Phil Lyman, and then I remembered, I'm like, wait, because I can't remember. There was something that I was thinking about the theory, like where it was like, could it really be? Because so let me rewind about 3 hours before this. I was doing the video in reaction to Candace releasing the leaked recording of Erica immediately following the memorial, talking to TPUSA as a whole, where she was like, "You guys, we've raised $250 million. We did $225,000 in merch sales, you guys." And I finished that video. It's all on record. And I said, okay. And I paused. I'm like, last thing I said in the video is I was like, okay, there's only two options here. Either Erica Kirk's a fucking alien or Charlie's alive. And I ended the video. And I had been saying that since my buddy floated it to me. But I told you guys, it took almost 2 months for enough things to marinate, where I was like, where it just, I just left it kind of open and spinning in the background. And I actually think this is,
isn't that the one? This is from Project.
If she's talking about merch,
6 days later, yeah, the merch one, right? So
yeah. No. I think that the merch sales one was a recording, and you can't see her face. It doesn't matter, but this same exact kind of thing, right?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. So I end the video, I get done uploading it, walk downstairs, and then that's when it hit. And I can't fucking remember what it was. Something about Phil Lyman that I was thinking about in terms of what I do is, once I'm trying to, if I come to a conclusion, what I try to do is disprove it. And I'll just run a million things to okay, what could make this like what, how would I break this hypothesis? Like, because if something breaks it, it's not what happened. And so I came up with something about Phil Lyman, and it was like, okay. And then I was like, wait a minute. When he went on the InfoWars show, the story he told was about goth leftists who said, fuck these people. And I'm like, which means that he pointed them in the direction of the leftists. And I was like, and then everything just fit into place. And just right then, I still didn't have the motive completely tied down, but that was the moment where I figured it out. And then from there, it just became more and more and more and more and more solid. Because all I tried to do from that moment is disprove it. Just let me disprove it. And everything I looked at did the exact opposite. I would say I was at, I don't know, let's call it 75% then. That's when I called you. Like I called you that day where I was just like, and then from there, I've done more research on trying to disprove it since then than I did on the episode, or like in the whole time prior to that. And I'm telling you, every single thing that I've looked into has made it more. I'm telling you, I'm 99% sure I'm right. 99. I've never said that about any conspiracy ever. You will not find.
I've watched you go from 90 to 92 to 95 to 97 to 99 to 99.9 to damn near 100 at this point.
But I just say 99 because I know once they're prosecuting Tyler Robinson and I'm like watching the case on TV, I'm going to start questioning myself.
I saw you say that.
I already know, like for sure.
You would have to. You would have to seeing that uncover. Now, what do you say to Mark? He brings a good point. Mark Stone's a member here, and he does ask, is the BB declining the money, the stepping away from their cause of Israel, is that a solid motive for actually executing
100%?
And so,
no, he's right. 100%, he's right.
Now,
absolutely correct.
I agree, but do you think that do you think that Trump has it in him, in his heart enough to thank Charlie enough to say, hey, you've got to go. This has become bigger than you. This has become more important than anything that you are going to be able to, like, we are taking this and you are going to have to go. And we're going to, like, there's a plan. So
I think the way more likely scenario is Charlie brought it to Trump. But there's no way to know. But what Mark is saying is absolutely correct, 100%, for sure. That's the problem, though, is that, of course, like anybody who would question that Israel had motive to knock him off would be insane and completely wrong. 100% they had motive. But that's all anyone has as it relates to Israel is just motive. And the main thing that I would say back to that is, like, if you go talk to literally any person who has any idea how actual intelligence works, or assassinations especially, okay, the last way that Israel would kill Charlie Kirk would be publicly at an event like this. Like the last, like, 100% they have motive, like huge motive. But the last thing they would do would be to do it publicly first. The other last thing they would do is involve multiple people in Charlie's inner circle who might end up flipping and telling the world or telling the American president. Because no one's going to convince me that JD Vance and Trump and all these other guys would sign off. They're like, okay, you guys are going to kill Charlie? Cool, we're on board. Like, they're not going to do that. And even if one of them would, you're not going to get all of them to do it. And so the threat of, Charlie's inner circle telling those guys makes it impossible. But the most part is, like, they would just poison him, or they would cut his brakes in a car accident, or they would shoot him with a dart and give him a heart attack. Like, there's nothing but downside for anyone knowing that they're the ones who did it, which means that, like, this is not like some double cross. They know there's going to be 1 million cameras there, which is a very serious point that smart people should think about. Who would do this publicly knowing that it's going to be on video all over the place? Someone who's a retard, like a leftist, or a very intelligent group that is intentionally trying to show everyone what happened, to sell the world a narrative that is meant to have a gigantic geopolitical shift based on it. And what's crazy is, like, it's not something I'd like thought about a lot before, but whenever people float this theory to me, because I hear all of them now, what if Charlie agreed to fake it and then they did it for real? And I'm like,
that somebody actually asked that. So
I get that all the
discourse.
time.
What do you think the likelihood of that happened? Like, is that something that could be?
It's
in your opinion?
I think that what that question shows is the level of impact that seeing an event happen has on people's minds, because it's like they are like, once you've seen it, you're like, he's dead. Because what possible evidence could anyone point to that like he agreed to fake it and then they murdered him afterward? There's nothing there at all. Either they murdered him or they didn't. And if he agreed to fake it, then what possible reason would there be to like go through this whole song and dance of faking it and then kill him out? It's like completely illogical. But what it does is it's like people can't get there. They're like, okay, this kind of does make sense that maybe you would fake it, but what if they killed him anyways? And I think that's like the kind of, scientific experiment that we all were a part of how solid witnessing something yourself will, like what it does. Another perfect example of this that I hadn't even thought about until right this second, which is also in Utah, is this thing that happened with Taylor Frankie, whatever, the Utah Mormon wives chick, right? So like everyone knew that she had this case where she was a domestic violence and she threw a stool at her boyfriend or whatever, and it hit her young daughter. She was arrested. Literally everyone knew about that. She's still a star. And then she goes and they make her the Bachelorette, which is hilarious, by the way. She's like a complete psycho. And they're all, that's fine. She's cheated on every single guy. She's got a domestic violence charge. She got this. And that was fine. And then when the video came out of an incident that everyone already knew the details of after the first pilot episode and people saw it, they literally canceled the entire series. $100 million they spent on it, and they canceled it over an incident that everyone already knew happened because people saw it with their own eyes, and that it became unacceptable. Same exact thing as if you're familiar with like the WikiLeaks. So like WikiLeaks, the one of the main things that the government had a problem with WikiLeaks was WikiLeaks got its hands on a video of a helicopter incident where they thought they were engaging with resistance fighters in Iraq, and they killed like these, like, I don't know, seven or eight people who were coming out of a van. And it turned out they were like Reuters reporters. They thought that they were, they thought they had AK-47s, and everybody knew about this incident. But when WikiLeaks put the video out, it was such a catastrophic thing for me. So like when you see a thing with your own eyes, it makes such a massive impact, which is why I think that's why they did it the way that they did.
Now, Mark pushes back saying that we use Boston on occasion for Israel, but
no, that's fine.
Do you think it doesn't matter at this point? I don't really care. I've actually been trying to stay away from using other words because we're killing our own First Amendment when we do that. I started doing, and I'm trying not to do that. You know what I mean? But do you like? Why wouldn't they want it to be a public event in your eyes?
Because there's nothing but downside. Like, as much as there has been an overwhelming movement to now open people's eyes to the fact that they have the amount of influence that they have, that has been a catastrophic development for them. That's why they keep trying to attack people who talk about Zionism and AIPAC and all that, and they just go, oh, they're anti-Semites, is because their influence depends on the fact that people don't realize that they are flexing that amount of influence over the government. And so anything that brings attention to that group is bad for them, terrible for them. There's nothing,
especially right now in the middle of the war situation and leading up to that, because they knew obviously we were headed there, right?
We just attacked Iran. We had just attacked Iran 2 months before that.
Right. That's very true.
They would like, and in addition to the fact that like, if Charlie is murdered, okay, like you got to keep in mind, okay, like they have tremendous influence over the government, which is a huge problem. Potentially at this moment, the biggest problem that we have, it seems like, to a lot of people, including me. But two things are true at the same time, which is they have tremendous influence. And at the same time, they are 100% reliant on us. That's why when people go, I think that Israel actually walked us into this conflict in Iran, hoping that we would lose. I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. That's wrong, because absent us, they get eradicated. Like that's not correct. They need us there because their survival relies on us giving them money and then giving them weapons and having their back militarily. If we collapse, they don't have our money, they don't have our military, and they don't have us to defend them. Like, that's all bad for them. And if, let's say they did it publicly and they make it this huge event, as opposed to like making it seem like Charlie choked on a chicken bone or something, some tragic, horrific accident. And JD Vance, who's the front runner for the Republican Party at the time to win and be the next president, he's best friends with Charlie. Like, that threat to them is existential. Like, if they lose support in the United States, like, that can be the end of their entire existence. There is no way that they would do it publicly because of the threat that it poses. Again, this is just my hypothesis, like, based on common sense and understanding the, like, the dynamics between us. But also, I've spoken to a bunch of, like, Chris Pajota, that was the, he was the division head for the FBI when he retired, who has a lot of experience with this kind of stuff and the intelligence. He's like, Mossad would never do it like that. He's like, that's not how they operate. Like, and I'm like, all right, he knows better than me too.
We keep getting, and it's a constant, I keep getting brought back to this, is if he's pulling the strings, because I know that's one thing with you that I've been curious, is like, how is he? Okay, let me try to.
There's no way for me to know.
Yeah, I hear you. But let's try to play it out. So do you think that he is the leader and he's making all the decisions perhaps, or is he being forced to do, like, it is such a opposite transition to where they were before he died and to where they are now?
Though. It's not.
Okay.
Like, it's
can you explain that?
Okay, so yes. So like when it comes to like Charlie himself, Charlie was out making statements that no person who is okay, so let me rewind. I just did a video last night and I reacted to a 90-second clip of Dan Bongino explaining why this situation in Iran is going to be short term and we're going to be out of there really soon and whatever. And he spoke for 90 seconds and my video is 31 minutes long of me shitting on him because what he's saying, he would talk for 7 seconds. I'd talk for 4 minutes about how absurd what he's saying is. So he's a perfect example of what these people are normally like when they've taken their money, and it's very obvious because they are lying. Every single thing that they say is completely skewed in the direction of cover for them, cover for this, cover for that. And like one of those people will absolutely never float the idea that they held the response back on October 7th. No, that's one of those ones they'll never say that. And they also will never say ethnic cleansing or genocide in Gaza. Like those two are probably the number one and number two thing that one of these AIPAC people would absolutely never say. And Charlie said both. And he said both multiple times. And he obviously internally is saying things like, these guys are living up to their, stereotype, and I'm going to have to leave the pro-Israel lobby. All that, and we know where he stood himself. But TPUSA is not just Charlie. They're bringing in $100 million a year that they're dispersing throughout this huge, like.
That's kind of why I said it's become much bigger than him.
It's much bigger.
Become way more important than anything he ever imagined.
Yes.
So him kind of getting out of the way and his opinions needed to happen to get wherever the MAGA or Republican Party or this admin wanted to take it and utilize it for the purposes that it was actually built upon. And maybe this was the intention all along.
I think that is
Charlie
very possible.
veered away.
Yeah, maybe Charlie did this, and maybe as much as Candace appears to be an ad, like the reason I did the series, at least 60% was because out of loyalty to Charlie, I'm watching Candace, and the way I was able to figure it out was actually based on all of Candace's like all of Candace's investigation, which I had written off completely initially. Not I had no problem with what she was doing at all. I just thought her conclusion, I was like, no, there's no way TPUSA was involved. But once I came back to start thinking, okay, but what if it's this? And then I went back to all of the things that she identified, how TPUSA had been clearly involved in what happened that day. Terrell Farnsworth, Mikey McCoy, as just two examples. The entire security team with Charlie jump over the table and they're all working on Charlie. And somehow in a neck wound where blood exploded out of his neck, none of them have any blood on their hands. There's no blood on their shoes. There's no blood trail between when they pick Charlie up and when he gets to the SUV. Impossible. Like those are things that's not possible. Right. And so I'm like, what are they doing? And then Tyler Boyer beelines over to the wall and he's filming the absolute perfect shot of them carrying Charlie from the place to the SUV. And then Mikey McCoy is on the phone and he just goes, all right, Charlie's been killed. I'm just going to go ahead and just start walking like a normal person. It's like, and so that's all stuff that Candace brought out, and among a million other things. Right. And so it's like,
I want to show this string. This thing is what really got me.
The hose, right?
The hose, yeah.
But when it comes to so like I had always been assuming, because Candace was going so hard at TPUSA, that meant that she did not realize. Like once I figured it out, and then I'm looking at what she's doing, and she's annihilating Charlie's organization and Charlie's wife, and I'm like, because she basically solved the fucking case, minus that the case is not what she thinks it is. So they all were involved. All of them were conspiring on 9/10. She actually did break the case. It's just he's not dead. That's why they're all involved. This whole thing is him faking it. That's why all of his best friends seem to be involved and all that. So I was like, dude, I'm going to do this series so she at least sees it and it stops like annihilating his wife when his wife is just playing a part in a thing that actually, because she thinks she's doing it out of loyalty to Charlie. And I always have Candace's back and I have Charlie's back. So I'm like, I'll just put this out there. Hopefully she'll see it and then she'll realize what's actually going on. But like what dawned on me recently is like, what if she did know all along? Like, what if, because the reason why I had never really considered that it's possible she does know is I'm like, there's no way Charlie and them would like be in on her just torching Erica and torching TPUSA and exposing all of these inconsistencies. And I think that's probably where I'm at actually right now. Just after the last few days, I'm like, okay, yeah, she still doesn't know. But it's not impossible to me that it's like the ultimate double cross where the actual, the purpose on top of the purpose was to use this event to expose how big of a problem Israel's influence is. And so, and in order to make sure that no suspicion comes back on them, that like, Candace attacks, Eric and all that. I don't think that that's actually accurate now after watching the last couple episodes, but I at least like considered that might be part of the overarching plan. But at the end of the day, here's a huge point that I haven't said in any of my videos that I kind of figured out in the last couple of days is it's not just about the fact that TPUSA took AIPAC money. Okay. Trump has taken $250 million from his campaigns and all of that stuff from those groups. Okay. And
adding additional, the 400 million for Qatar, another $250 million from Adelson after, right? So it's like,
and the Gaza redevelopment plan that is coming to
$10 billion from us, and then lobbyists. I mean, Port of Peace. I made a video on it.
Yep. Yeah, but bottom line is like crazy. once you this part's like crucial, and I'm gonna explain it in a very we all know Charlie was fervently against going into Iran. Like absolutely, like probably his number one thing after Trump won was make sure we don't attack Iran. Everyone knows that. Anyone who's denying that is being dishonest or is dumb and has not done the research. But if you look in June, right after Trump bombed the nuclear facilities, Charlie was asked about this on his show. And he said, my answer, I hear you guys asking, my answer is this. I support my friend, Donald Trump, who has had my back and I have his. And that was his answer. And so people are like, oh, like he's, so he does support it. And it's interesting because there's two ways to look at this, right? And I'll just I mean, I don't think I'm betraying a personal conversation because I know he would say this publicly. But when I talked about this with Nate, Valhalla BFT, he was like, oh, so Charlie's a fucking grifter like all the rest of them. And I was like, I don't know. Like, that's because he's a hardliner. Like and I respect that about him. Like in terms of like Joe Kent resigns because Joe Kent was against going into Iran. They gave the intelligence and Joe Kent's like, fuck you, I'm out. And the fact that Tulsi has not resigned and he knows that she was against the war, he sees that as a betrayal of their ethics and principles, which I understand that viewpoint completely, even though my view is more nuanced because so that's like one way of viewing it. And the other way of viewing it is what is your goal of everything that you're doing? And so the way I think about things, and I guarantee the way Charlie and probably Tulsi think about things is like their end game is to help solve problems or, like make America as successful as possible. And in the event that I'm in Tulsi's position and I look around the room and I go, okay, so if I leave and I don't get my word in this guy's ear, all he has around him are these fucking snakes. Like if I resign, this is going to be the exclusive people who are trying to get us out of this situation. And so maybe I swallow my pride and I'm like, I'm going to just be quiet and not resign so that I can at least try to help get us out of this fucking situation. And with Charlie and how this ties back to what I'm talking about with the TPUSA thing is like the fact that Charlie said what he said after we attacked Iran the first time means that he knows, I know that's how Charlie thinks about things. And so he knows that protecting his ability to influence Trump is the most important thing. And he knows if he comes out and says anything negative against what we've done, he's going to lose his ability to influence Trump going forward. And so he's going to protect that, in terms of by saying that he supports him. And now put yourself in Charlie's position, assuming that you have recognized how big of a problem this is over here, but Trump took all their money. So if Charlie comes too hard out, like we're against Israel right now, all he's going to do is he's going to lose his ability to have any kind of influence over what the White House is doing. Trump is a simple organism, man. He's not hard to understand. If you come out and you oppose him publicly, like he will immediately, like you're talking people who've been with him forever. If they publicly go after him, that's like the ultimate betrayal to Trump because he sees so many things through what the effect is on the public opinion. So like if Charlie comes out and TPUSA come out and they're all no more Israel, what's their influence going to be over Trump and how they can affect the future of the country? Gone is the answer. So they can't do that.
Do you think Charlie had that much influence on Trump to be able to actually convince him to step away completely?
No, not at all. No way.
Okay.
No, not step away completely because Kushner's an immovable object. Like if you're trying to navigate this thing, if you're like the game that Charlie plays and the game that Charlie was in is a game that is for some people and it's not for others. And in many cases, people will literally look and you could explain all of the pieces to them and they still won't understand. But this is a game I understand very well. And there's so many moving parts. And one of those things that you need to understand in terms of your strategy among people is where are your immovable objects? Because you have to figure out a way to navigate around them. Kushner is an immovable object. He is your son-in-law. He's Trump's son-in-law, and he is overtly going to be on the side of whatever Israel's interests are. And he also holds this gigantic bag of billions of dollars that he's been working and negotiating for since 2016. And that's a huge incentive to have to fight back against. And you can never attack Jared ever, verbally or any other way if you're Charlie. So you have to figure out a way to navigate your way around that immovable object without saying something or doing something where you lose the ability to even play the fucking game with the president who's the decision maker. So like,
well, Jared Kushner is literally helping Trump carve out a forever empire for himself, for Trump. Correct. And the family, because Correct. that whole border peace, Gaza, Kushner is the focal point of making all of that work somehow. I don't know his inner workings, but they are literally creating a tax-free haven where Trump is going to have free reign over the plot of land there. Whatever he wants to do, he's going to call Correct. The shots, all the money that's going in. He's even receiving money for people that even want to be involved. So they are creating Trump is creating himself an empire.
This is
and
exactly
it's sad
right.
to see, but I think he's at a point now. It's like, fuck it. I'm getting to the point where I'm just going to make sure that we're good forever. And whatever the cost is, I'm going to play the game, not get killed, because don't forget about Butler. You know, maybe they pulled him aside and said, look, you're going to have to play the game. And he's taking advantage of it. And they've been building to this point. So you can't step away just because it's a bad look or it's not best for, I hate to say this. It just doesn't appear to me that Trump has the America first in his mind at all, unless there's something we don't know.
There's one thing that is a big factor that I think people are not factoring in, and I think I was failing to factor in until today. But go ahead. Sorry, I'll finish your thought.
Well, no, I mean, I was just going to say is that the America first, the non-wars, that it turns out to me to appear that him and his cabinet are looking to benefit as much as possible and have completely side-skirted anything that they were talking about pre-inauguration. And now it's about benefiting as much as possible while helping Israel. And somehow maybe it helps us. They keep saying that it does, but it doesn't seem that way to me. It seems that our money keeps getting poured out. We keep getting further into debt. Our gas keeps going up. We're losing Americans. This is not benefiting. And if Trump was already hardlined on going that direction because he saw how much he's going to benefit, then Charlie Kirk really, he could have just had a conversation with him,
right?
You know, just say, look, bro, this is how it's going to be. You're going to have to, and maybe they did. You know, that's what makes this so complicated and messy. You do have a couple super chats. Cowpoke Ranch, $5. The fact that Erica Kirk is more upset with a random comedian, I think maybe was it JP, than she is supposedly the person who actually murked her husband, tells you everything.
How funny is that though, dude?
JP has been going hard.
No, Drewski.
Oh, Drewski.
The
that
Drewski
one too.
thing. Fucking
yeah, that's
hilarious, dude. Hilarious. I mean,
it's not wrong, you know.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, again, you guys know what I think about, like, why she's not upset about that. But yeah, thank you for the super chat, my dude. And that Drewski thing was hilarious. About 100 people sent me that the other day.
And this one's for you too, Miss Lacey, $20. Wouldn't it have been easier for Trump to pardon Charlie? The fear of getting arrested, fed, jail was major provocation you brought up. Obviously, Iran war is a separate issue that may override this as the investigator. I have my input. Do you have
instigator?
Instigator.
So yes, he absolutely he could have pardoned Charlie for sure, but only in so much where, in order to do that, Trump would have to sacrifice the ability for him to go after the people that Joe Biden wrote those big pardons on. He can't really do it because what Joe Biden did for like Hunter and Fauci and those guys, where he wrote like, I pardoned them all the way back to 2014.
Sweeping.
Exactly. In order for Trump to be able to pardon Charlie and all of those guys, because you'd have to pardon all of them. Like, he'd have to pardon all of TPUSA. There is no way that they could do that and then still actively be trying to undo the pardons that Biden did so they can go after Fauci and all of those guys. The two things can't both happen. And at the end of the day, also, I genuinely believe that the vision that there's another piece of this too, which is Charlie had either been planning this for the last 8 to 10 years, or he really had visions that he was going to die young, that he was talking to people about constantly, and that maybe he thought, I would much rather raise my children. Maybe I can instigate the same revolution and I can actually be around to raise my kids instead of actually having to die. That's where we get into stuff that I would only be speculating about. But in terms of the pardons, I think that would be a big, because at the time, like
well, you can overcome Biden's situation because Biden was auto pen, right? If Trump manually signs these, then that part goes out the window, in my opinion, about backtracking and Biden and holding them accountable if they so choose, right?
It's still but I agree with you that like the auto pen was how they were attacking him, but it's still like to give these guys these, like, we pardon them for the previous 10 years of what, like, because what are they going to point at? In order to do that, right? In order to do what they needed to do for Charlie, he would have had to be specific about what he was pardoning them for. So you had to be like, any financial or any doings that had to do with TPUSA from these dates to these dates. It's like, it's messy. It's gross. It's like theoretically, sure, he could pardon, but you don't know how many, like, is he going to pardon Charlie, Tyler Boyer, Stacey Sheridan, Hoffman? He did pardon fucking Tyler Boyer and Hoffman. Those were for crimes
federally
charged for. Yeah.
They're still being under state, but yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, though. I want to go back. Go back because you were saying there might be something additional that Trump is thinking that I think this is okay. So I'm going to answer that because it's really important with two layered response. And it's hilarious. It's funny because I always take shit from people because they'll ask me a question and I'll answer it. They're like, when are you going to answer the question? I eventually come back to it because this is literally how my brain works. It's like, to answer this question, I have to go through all of this stuff to be able to explain how I see it. And so, like, when it comes to like the reason that Trump would do this, that would be disconnected just from pure corruption and self-interest, is this. Okay. So, like, when you have when a human has an incentive that is very large and something that they want, people believe that their internal monologue is much more under control, like their own control, than it actually is. And anybody who has any drug addiction experience will tell you the exact same thing, that they learn about the brain. And it's like, people think they're having a conversation with hey, should I maybe I could just take one of these, like, just today and whatever. And it seems like you're having some kind of conversation with yourself, but it's over, dude. Like, you're going to take it. You're going to tell yourself some stupid excuse. You're going to take it. And ultimately all it is your brain tricking you into doing the thing that it wants. Incentives work the same way. And in an event or in a situation like this, where Trump has an empire level forthcoming on the other side of this deal getting done, okay, the ability for people to justify things in their own mind and find reasons that what they're doing is ethical, if there is a personal incentive on the other side, is limitless for some people. Okay. And with Trump, like, this is not rocket science, whether you like him or don't like him. This is a person who has his whole life has prioritized money, status, and I guess fame or power or whatever over all other things. What he gets over here is the Trump family becomes Rockefeller after this, if they are able to pull off what they're trying to do over there. And so when you look at them going into Iran, right, it's like, there's two ways to look at it, and I think both of them are probably true. Okay, so the first one that I've been exclusively focused on up till now is that I think that this deal hinges on, like, there's things Israel has to greenlight for this to happen. And so when they come to Kushner, they come to him and they're like, listen, for us to be able to, get this deal done that we know you want, then we need this from you. And somehow, with Kushner in his ear and their influence, they're telling him, oh yeah, we're going to decapitate the regime, and it's going to be like a 2-week thing, and then there's going to be regime change. You don't get it. There's people out in the middle of the street protesting. They want them gone. All you got to do is kill the Ayatollah, and then boom, it's revolution time. And you're like, and if you think about it logically, like, just in terms of the strategy, right? It's like, you kill the Ayatollah. Do you think that is more likely to harden the Iranian, population against the United States, or for you kill the religious leader? Like, of course, that's going to turn it into the exact opposite of a short war, just on common sense, right?
Of course.
But so who's that intelligence coming from? Oh, they're not going to close the Strait of Hormuz. Who's that coming from? And why would he prioritize their intelligence over ours when we're warning him of the exact opposite? Because there's this incentive on the other side of that, which is this huge thing that he wants more than anything. So that's like that side of the argument, which I think is probably, at least I've considered until today, the most dominant reason. But the other side of this is there is also the larger geopolitical kind of chessboard that he's operating in, where people are like, oh, he went into Venezuela because, he just wanted to get Maduro and he wanted to flex how the military is blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but why would he go to Venezuela? Like, why is that the place specifically? Aside from, obviously, there's a huge connection to the like election fraud stuff. I don't know. We don't need to get into that now, but primarily they're an oil exporter. Like, Venezuela is one of the biggest oil exporters in the world. So now the U.S. controls Venezuela's oil exports. Why is Iran such a prime target for us to overthrow their regime and then put a friendly regime in there? Because if we capture Iran's oil exports, we control Saudi Arabia, us, Venezuela, and Iran, which is like the vast majority of the oil in the world outside of Russia. And the reason
you add America, then
that's what I'm saying. Us, us,
and
so the reason that would be seen as geopolitically important is because while everyone else was asleep at the wheel, China cornered the market on rare earth minerals to the tune of 96%. We can't do fucking anything without rare earth minerals. Nothing. Like in the future, when you want to, microchips and AI, which is going to be literally the thing that drives the future of the planet, you have to have rare earth minerals, and China owns them exclusively. In addition to the fact that China,
we're also looking at that TMC Metals company that's doing the underwater. They're trying to pass by June. There's $20 trillion worth of cobalt, nickel in the middle of the ocean in the Southeast Pacific. And
how deep is
that's
it?
Another right now it's like $4. It's
no. How deep in the ocean is it?
Oh, how deep? It's deep down in there. They're circling. I could pull up a map. There was a whole video Johnny Harris.
We don't need to sidetrack it. Let's you and I talk about that afterwards though.
Yeah, but no, it's so basically to your point is that what it looks like is we are trying to, or Trump at least is trying to gain all of the energy or anything that is worth anything on this planet.
China.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
They have us by the balls on the precious metals. We also have
the chips. They got the country. They're trying to go and invade Taiwan right now. Right. So
yep. And the microchips can't build them also without the rare earth minerals, but no one can do anything without oil. Like you can have all the rare earth minerals in the world and you don't have oil, you collapse. So it's about leverage as superpowers. And I mean, it's impossible that is not partially what they're doing over here. And honestly, the thing is, if what they came out and said when they were talking about why we're going in was they said the thing about the nuclear weapons for like the dumbbells, and then they followed it up with, and by the way, do you guys understand what it means that China manufactures 95% of our products, including our pharmaceuticals and all of this stuff, and they have 96% of the rare earth minerals in the world? Like, to try to explain to anybody how by the balls China has us, in addition to the fact that they own all our farmland and all the real estate, and they could collapse our economy in any time if they just sold all the American bonds that they own. Like, this is a position that's unacceptable, and we need to put ourselves in a position where we don't get steamrolled by China. As much as it sounds like we're being imperialist to go into Iran and just start bombing and trying to, do regime change, we are. But that's because China has already won the war, the non-violent war. They've won it. If we don't do this, like we're done. This war is over, and they did it without firing a shot. Well, we're gonna have to fire. We're gonna have to fire some shots. But if we overthrow the regime in Iran, now they have to work with us, and they can't just steamroll us. And so like that has to factor in. But it doesn't matter because you said you wouldn't go to war, and they went to war, and then the reason they gave was, they won't be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. So of course, that means that's probably what was actually driving this conversation in terms of their decision-making, which comes right back to Trump gets to be a fucking next Rockefeller if they're able to do this. And Israel's the one who holds the keys to that. And so they've got him by the balls,
We got a couple more supers right here. Thanks for the Patience gave in 10 so far. Danks membership, say thanks to Patience. Miss Candace, love. This is one of yours. Hey, Jesse, love your show. Always thought the secret meeting with Erica was sus, and then she seemed all relaxed after that. Also, to be shown the video from behind in private was a red flag, she was told.
So, yeah, thank you for the super chat. The private meeting with Erica, and at the time, I was not. I still was on. I had not gotten on the side that I'm on now of what actually happened. And so what I expected that once they met in person, that Candace would have a lot of her suspicions quelled and then things would be fine. And so I was very much not surprised when the next day afterwards, Candace was like, okay, they answered a lot of my questions and whatever. And I was like, I knew it. And then the backlash to Candace was biblical. And I didn't understand. Like, people just immediately attacked her. They're all, her energy changed immediately, yada, yada, yada. And then she started going at them again. And so I wasn't really sure what I was looking at. But what actually was going on is they had that meeting. They answered her questions. And Candace was slow playing them. She's all, as long as I don't catch them in any lies, then maybe they're telling the truth. But the second that I start catching them in lies, then I'm really going to bury them. And that's exactly what happened. And that's why she's been now just torching them, is because when the truth of what happens is that you all conspired in this thing that happened, it's just that you didn't kill Charlie, you pretended to, and you have someone who's like a ruthless investigator, and she's like, so what's going on? You have to lie to her, because you can't tell her like, oh yeah, here's where all of us were planning this thing, because it looks like you were planning to whack him out, except you weren't. And so it's inevitable she was going to catch them in lies. And then now she's taking the gloves off and she's fucking eating them alive, because she caught him in so many lies, because they are lying, because they are involved.
We've talked about this too. I don't know if you have on your channel, but if this is the case, why wouldn't they just bring Candace in on this?
So, yeah, that's it.
Instead of like going through, like, they know she's a dragon, bro. Like you said, she is the dragon. Why not?
She burns
plan
people to
for
the
that
fucking ground. So
yeah, you'd have to account for that.
Again, this is one of those ones that I, even as of this,
and I don't mean to drill you. I know that.
No. Dude, that's fine. Those are completely valid questions. But because listen, like, I've thought about all of these things 100 different ways, trying to disprove the theory, and trying to think about whether, like, I think that one of the biggest questions, so going back to what, like, oh, what could you know that you don't know now? And I said the Tyler Robinson side. The other part is, once and for all, like, is Candace, does she know or does she not know? And what is her role in this? Like, because she's honestly one of the people, I always talk about how I can read people, but that not everybody. There are people who are talented enough that I can't read them. And if they want me to think that they are this thing, they'll be able to convince me. And that's not because they're like unethical or dishonest. It's that they're that big of a savage. She's that. If I wanted you to believe that I was blah, blah, and I was acting as an angry version of myself, no one's ever going to know. But like, and she's one of those. I can't read her. So that also, but like, in terms of why they can't bring her in, is because the number of people who needed to be involved in this thing is very large, and was very large. You got all that, you got Farnsworth, Mikey McCoy, Andrew Colvett, Erica, I'm sure other people. Oh, Stacey Sheridan, who is the co-founder of the Gary Sinise Foundation. And Gary Sinise is the co-star of Snake Eyes, which is a movie that is impossible, that both Snake Eyes, the movie, exists, and Charlie Kirk's assassination happened randomly. It can't, those two things cannot happen. It did not happen randomly, and the movie exists. So either God foretold this thing through a movie in 1998 that Brian De Palma made, or they used the movie as like one of these like operational basis of like, oh, this is, so the movie's kind of, it's like this inside joke that they all have or whatever. But like,
well, you also, Andrew Colvett is a producer that worked in the same network as Trump's apprentice.
Yep.
Right. So they're all kind of in that media apparatus.
And what is, and Fort Huachuca is known for multiple things. One of them is that they run intelligence operations they train intelligence operatives out there. And the other is that it's been a soundstage for like 6 Hollywood movies. So do with that information what you will. But in terms of the Candace, is like, there are like, Candace was super close with Charlie, and without betraying any kind of like confidences, like that there is information I have that is not public that confirm, like, anyone who says that Candace and Charlie were not close, they're fucking ignorant or lying. That's not true. Like, that's just not true. Like, what Candace presents as her friendship with Charlie is actually understating what her relationship was with him. Nothing like romantic, nothing like that. But they were super fucking close. But that's with Charlie. And Candace, if you guys have not been watching this movie for the last decade, does not play well with others, dude. Like, she, every time, she goes, like, when she's leaving TPUSA, she loves Charlie, but she's got beef with this one. She got beef with this one. She goes to the Daily Wire. and she's got beef with this one. She is not built for being employed by people under any circumstance. She has to run her own ship. Like, she'll burn the world down if you cross her. And going into a thing like this with the number of people who are going to be involved, there were inevitably going to be people on the inside of this thing who have massive beef with Candace. She couldn't be on the inside of it because you need to have this circle of trust of people that are all on the same page. Like, my guess is that the way this was unfolded was there was some secret meeting that was at some fucking weird remote hotel, and they all came there. No one really knew what it was about. Charlie comes up on the stage, and then he explains exactly what they're going to do and exactly why, and how the future of the country is, or the world is, all on the line, and this is what the outcome is going to be, and yada yada. And that's the way that they all find out that they're inside of something that's going to be an earth-shifting moment that they are going to create, because the enemies of this group are straight fucking demons, which I agree with. And Candace, you can't have her on the inside of that group if there are 10 of 15 of them that fucking despise her. So she can't be there. And then once a thing like this happens, you swear to each other at penalty of what, I mean, not, but like, you're not telling anyone about this ever. And even though she's a pain in the ass, you have no idea what she's going to do, honestly. Like, even if she was my best friend, having watched this, I'm like, I'll just call her and let her know. You have no fucking idea what she's going to do. What if she just goes, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? And you're just sitting there on the other side of the phone, shitting your pants. You're like, wait, are you serious? Like, oh, this is AI. It's AI. It's not really me. I was just kidding. Someone playing a cruel joke on you. Like, what do you can't bring her in because you don't know what she's going to do, man. You have no idea what she would do. And she could burn everybody's fucking world. And this is something really important to understand. The reason I did this was the reason I stated, and I had accurately estimated what my general reach and influence was correctly, which was not very big. If this actually came out in an official level, what they did, it will be the biggest political scandal in the history of the country. Okay. Like, if I'm right, it means that the president of the United States, vice president of the United States, director of the FBI, conspired to fake a political assassination and pin it on the other side. Now, I personally would agree that the ends justified the means, but can you fucking imagine what the fallout from that would be? It's so you can't bring anyone in. You can't talk that. This can never come out.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it is so, there's so many moving parts, and there's already so many people involved. And I want to remind people, when you look at, like, we haven't seen one authentic tier. Okay.
Zero.
And you've said this many times, bro. These people their lives have revolved around Charlie. And I've also said you could give each person $1 billion for each person. And now, to this point, Barron recently on his podcast said that there's a chance that there's some blood oath, there's some pact, there's some mafia stuff going in. And I might not be giving him the justice of how he said it, but to what you said early on in the show today is these people are just like, they're not those, I don't know. I don't see them as mafia driven mentality type of people that can do this.
They're not.
Obviously. I mean, you can read people well. I'm a poker. I can read people well. Correct. I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a couple of them that could be in that world. Jake Hoffman, for sure.
Sure.
Stacey Sheridan would never want you to know, but that's not an enemy you want. Hoffman and Stacey Sheridan could be in that world. And I'm not saying that they would like murder Charlie. I'm just saying those two are in a category that is very different than fucking Mikey McCoy and Andrew Colvett. Okay. Like, these are very different types of people when it comes to like what they're capable of and what they would plan and execute absent a problem afterwards. That's the other reason that like their behavior afterwards is so fucking obvious to me, is like, if someone like Mikey McCoy, it's like, hello, I was born to be a preacher.
Bro, he'd be bawling his eyes out. Him and most of the people would be bawling their freaking eyes out. They would not be able to contain them. Especially if they were the ones, or if they were involved at all, yes. Or if they knew about a real assassination that was authentic.
Yes.
they would be bawling their eyes out. They would not be showing themselves on camera. I'm telling I can see these people.
Correct.
You know what I mean? You can't hide that from me.
Thank
All
you.
right.
It's like the
can't
person
explain that.
wears it, dude.
Yeah. It's part of their energy, bro. Their being is you can see it. Now, I do want to say and go back to a little bit of the surveillance stuff, and just let me know. We've been going for a while. I'm happy to go longer. If you have to bounce, just let me know.
Hang on for 1 second. Well, here, you explain that. I'm going to go talk to Gabrielle for 90 seconds. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead. So my thing is, and we have talked about this, and I'll bring him on as soon as I see him back here, is that the surveillance apparatus that I've documented, that I've seen them obviously forcing into schools across the entire country. Jesse and I have talked about this. If we're choosing the lesser of two evils in our mind, how are these people actually fighting the left? Why choose to go after the left? Why choose to do it in this way? Why choose to force the whole surveillance situation into all of the schools? Why make all of this happen? Maybe, and Jesse, you can attest to this, or at least maybe back up on some of this, and what you've said is that you think that the left was planning something very similar, but in a much more sinister way, where this surveillance is going to be rolled out either way. It's left versus right, lesser of two evils. You even say it might not even be evil on the Charlie Kirk side of what they're trying to roll out. Obviously, all the schools, obviously, all the patents, the land, the drones, there's so much in the money trail. I think that do you think that if they didn't grab this by the balls and say, we're going to take and put into every school and create our own operation, are we facing a communist left super scary version of what the surveillance, at least when I say surveillance, gathering data, cameras, algorithms, understanding people through metadata, Wi-Fi, geofencing, all of this? Do you think that is that being combated from? Do you think it's being combated from TPUSA side against the left?
So I don't. Well,
and that's just super loaded.
The answer is yes, but I would reframe it from left versus right, because I don't think that. Like, I think that the left versus right thing is a relic that is used by the people who are actually fighting for the future of the world. So they operate within that paradigm, but that's not actually what it is. It's like, I think that, yes, the answer is like AI.
Do you think it's a uniparty?
I think there is a uniparty. And then I basically think that it is this again, I mean, it's a very educated hypothesis that of like who's involved in this. But the way I look at it is, you have the old banking dynasties that have literally been in charge of this shit forever, like forever. And then you have this new emerging group of technology people, Peter Thiel, Elon or whatever. And the future of the world is going to be determined by what happens with AI. And that's a fact. Like, the more that AI develops, the more it becomes clear that literally every single vocation that exists is going to be replaced by AI, except for people who know how to use AI to create things. Like, that's it. There's not going to be anything. Lawyers, done, unless you're going to be doing trials. Like, there's no more lawyers who do anything other than trials, okay? There's going to be no, like software engineers that write code, gone. Soon. Influencers, people who make content and then do whatever, gone. Like that is developing. They are literally, and in terms of the law, someone could take all of my videos. Like, you just find me or someone else. They're like, let's just look at these people's engagement analytics. And then they choose them that way. And they take all of the videos that I've done for the last 3 years and they stick them into an AI bot and they create the identical clone of me, except I look different, except I'll look completely human. And then they will create a channel that will be indistinguishable from mine, except that it will input whatever opinions that they want the public to have. So it'll be me selling people on propaganda the exact way that I talk now. Like, that's the future, is all AI, and all of it is going to be about influence, and the influence that is wielded upon the population is going to determine what kind of society we have. Do we have a society of like, push people down, crush them, if you want to look at it in terms of like the church, okay, the people over there, the old, like clearly not the Charlie people, their goal for years has been to break the nuclear family, break people's belief in God, and get them to worship the state and worship, like communist China stuff. Like break God, get it, except they're going to be using AI to do it. And on Charlie's side, they are fighting for the nuclear family, faith in God, the exact opposite. So the way that they look at it is it's an existential future of the world problem that they need to be in control of as much as possible, because otherwise it's the end of everything. And that is what's at stake, because AI is that influential, and people, they just fundamentally don't get it. Well, some people do. I didn't until about it's been like a developing thing, but I remember 2 years ago when it was like AI is going to blah, 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 or bring around the end of the world. And I remember like watching these podcasts and go, how? Like, what the fuck are they talking about? I had no idea what they were talking about. I knew about ChatGPT, but that was like, I don't get it. Like, what's going to happen? Now I completely understand how all of this is going to play out, and what's on the line and how AI fits into all of it. And Charlie, smarter than me, and absolutely understands this. And Charlie is plugged into the exact people who are going to determine which group, gets to drive the influence and figure out what kind of country we're going to have. Are we going to have a group of, a country of people who care about the family and they have faith in God and they love their neighbors? Or are we going to have a bunch of fucking, hey, your son wants to be a girl, so we're going to turn him into a girl. And if you have a problem with that, we'll fucking remove him from your home and we'll let the state raise him. Like, these are the opposing sides. Like, that's what they fucking believe.
They
think
get
that
paid
it's okay
to do
for them
that.
to take your fucking kid, turn them into a girl, and then not let you have contact with them. Fucking think about that. Like, that's what's on the other side. That's why I'm like, whatever Charlie's doing, I know that he's opposing that, and I'm on board. It's not about right versus left. It's about, I'm on that team, dude. And fighting against AI is pointless. It's going to happen. It is already happening. I used when I was thinking about how fucked we are in our Iran last week, and how if we can't open the Strait of Hormuz, how every single thing that we take for granted is going to fall apart. And that is how serious this thing that we're in is. And I asked ChatGPT,
I saw you were heated, bro. I even sent you that picture.
I get more heated
shit.
every single day thinking about it. And
it's
like,
upsetting.
These fucking people gaslighting me about it. It makes me, anyway, okay. But like, so I was asking ChatGPT about specific effects on if our NATO allies leave alliances with us and go and become allies with our quote unquote enemies economically. Like, they're like, yeah, okay, we won't buy Saudi oil. We'll do the exact opposite of what they've been doing now, where we leverage our allies to not buy Iranian oil, to not buy Russian oil, to not, previously Venezuela. Now, hey, Venezuela's open for business now, dog. But so like, that's how we wielded that, was in an economic war. And that's why Russia's an enemy, because you're like, I don't get it. Why, the Soviet Union broke down. Why is Russia this huge enemy? It's because they have so much fucking oil. It's all about oil. We don't control their economy. They sell oil to our allies, so they're a threat to our global control. Iran, Venezuela, that's it. This is not about, like, there's nothing more complicated about it than that. Okay. Iran, you think Iran and Saudi Arabia have like super different, ethical ways that they look at things? It's like, it's similar enough. And Saudi Arabia is golden and Iran is our enemy. Why? Because of that. That's all it is.
Well, when you look at the Board of Peace, it was initially supposed to be 3 years for Gaza. Then they made it a proprietary situation where it's indefinite, and Trump said it in the White House video on YouTube. I actually live streamed and recorded. I think that Trump is setting up to step away from the UN, because he said the Board of Peace is going to be something like an oversight of the UN. But what I think is crazy about that whole thing, and we are veering towards a different path, which I'm happy to go down this conversation, is that Trump is the chairman of the Board of Peace. And he's in control of the money that goes into the Board of Peace through the Federal Reserve. And this power play I wonder if Trump sees that, because now they're not, if he saw in advance that they are, the UN and our allies are not backing us, they're doing things that are not in the best interest of what he would maybe want America, and if we throw Israel into that now, do you think that we're stepping away from the UN completely and are we going to force them out? Do you think that they're just going to, are we going to split off? Are we going to stay together? How can you have the Board of Peace and be a part of the UN? That doesn't equate to me. And the power stuff that's going on is, I mean,
I would pose a question in response to that, which is, what is the best way of predicting future behavior of someone?
What would you say to that?
Past
behavior.
Behavior.
Of course. Yeah, past behavior.
And so Trump's first, gets elected president, doesn't know anything about the job except the fact that he's been watching like a lot of Fox News and all that. Like, he doesn't know shit about being president.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't understand yet, right? Like, I'm talking at the very beginning of 2016. Doesn't understand how all of the moving parts fit together, right? Immediately pulls out of the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran deal. Immediately. And what is so unfathomable about that to me now is how quickly it happened, and also the fact that no one talks about that in the current situation where we need to make a deal and Iran is like, fuck you. And people are like, geez, like, why won't they negotiate? You're like, are you fucking serious? I don't know. Why do you think they aren't? No, they already made a deal with the United States, and the current leader who is telling them, let's make a deal, pulled us out of the already binding agreement. And in the last however many months, when we come to the table to negotiate, we'll start, either we will bomb them or Israel will bomb them in the middle of negotiations. And so and then we killed their religious leader. So it's
every time we go to negotiation table, it seems like Iran wants to come and negotiate, and then somehow we blow the deal up every time. It happened in the summer, or they do it. So yeah,
and then so what do they get? Why are they going to make this deal? And so when it turns in terms of the Board of Peace and what I mean, I would put, and the Paris Climate Accord too. It's like Trump got into office and he was like, "Fuck Obama, I'm going to undo this stuff," which I understand the way that his brain works, but he pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. And what's so insane about that one in particular is that it doesn't matter if you agree with the terms or not. What happened was people from the United States organized the entire thing. We are the ones who brought all of these countries to the table and then negotiated with all of these different countries. A lot of them were very resistant to even being involved in it. We got them and then got everyone to agree to it. And then he just went, nope, we're out. That is so fucking crazy if you really think about it in terms of our situation now, when it's time where we need to be able to rely on our allies to stay loyal to us. And I'm like, you can rely on the exact opposite. The second that we are weak enough that they think that they might be able to get away with leaving, if they will. And it's because of that. Even though it was a different leader, the United States is the one that organized this and we pulled out. So if he's setting this up, I'm sure that they're having conversations about potentially pulling us out of the UN. I don't even understand what the impact of that would be, but he's also been threatening to pull out of fucking NATO. And I'm like, okay. In terms of the military impact of NATO, yeah, of course, we over deliver by 100 miles what we bring to the table versus others. But that's not why it's important. It's important because we wield them against our enemies economically because they rely on our military. So because they rely on our military, we're like, don't buy Russian oil, Germany. They're like, geez, we're having a lot of people freezing to death. It's like, too bad, don't buy their oil. They're like, okay, because they rely on us militarily. That's why we can wield them as economic weapons, is because of our military. So we're pulling out because you're not paying your fair share for your military. We don't fucking want them to have good militaries. We want them reliant on us so we can use them in the economic war. And it's I don't know. It's just I feel like I wish that someone smart that's in the administration could come and have one conversation with me, explain to me what I'm missing so that I could be like, okay, because I'm always very open to being wrong. I fucking admit I'm wrong all the time. But like from my perspective, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what the fuck are we doing as of the last 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, Trump rage quit out of 66 organizations as soon as he was in office. And you're talking 31 UN entities is like 35, almost 70 entities and non-UN organizations. The World Health Organization already done on day one.
Fuck, that one I'm down with. Fuck
that one is fine.
Yeah.
But the US still keeps its UN Security Council seat, stays in the World Food Program, and then the UN Refugee Agency, the strategic seats we keep, but then the globalist agenda seats we drop, right? So Trump's framing, to me, it looks like these organizations were taking American taxpayer money, using it to advance agendas hostily to U.S. interests, right?
Which could be completely possible.
Yeah, I agree. Well, he did say, I think he said something along the lines of that it's not acceptable to be sending these institutions the blood, sweat, and treasure of the American people with nothing to show for it. So, but the real risk is that every seat we vacate, China or Russia could fill potentially, right? When Trump is gone, it may be way too late to reverse that course.
Correct.
And that's the receipts. Those are the receipts. That's the truth.
Hang on, I'm sorry. There's someone at my door. My wife's not here, and I'd never let my kids answer the door. I'll be right back.
All good. Yeah, you're good. And so to go further on what I'm saying is that Congress already tried to block a NATO exit. The 2024, I think it's 2024 National Defense Authorization Act. Authorization Act prohibits the president from unilaterally withdrawing without a two-thirds Senate supermajority or an act of Congress. Trump refused to rule out leaving NATO over Greenland as recently as January of this year. So the threat is still live. But the real play is that Trump hasn't formally left NATO, but he is doing something arguably worse, is that he's ignoring it. For 75 years of transatlantic security cooperation being discarded, not by exit, but more by just indifferences, right? And then the result is Europe now racing to build its own defense infrastructure because they can no longer count on what was Article 5. And I don't know if we're blowing up NATO we're not doing a formal exit, but we're bleeding it out by not showing up. And then we want to wonder, or Trump and the admin wants to ask, why aren't the UN coming to our defense or answering to our defense when it comes to Iran? And we're getting gutted strategically, keeping power seats and then cutting funding seats. Whether that's a genuine or smart sovereignty play or a gift to China, which it would be insane, depends entirely on what fills that vacuum, that fills those seats. And right now, Beijing is very much filling that vacuum. And then to the Paris Climate Accord, which is 2015, was an international deal where nearly every country agreed to cut greenhouse gas emissions to limit global warming. I don't particularly, when it comes to global warming, I think that's a very strange situation. But I can't imagine all of the greenhouse gases, all the stuff that we're doing is damaging, at the very least, the ozone layer. But under Obama, the U.S. committed to cutting emissions to, I think, 28% and send billions to the Green Climate Fund, which subsidized developing nations, amongst others. And Trump basically argued that China gets to keep growing. India doubles coal production. Europe keeps building coal plants, and we get our industry for a deal that by its own math only moves the temperature needle negligible, is like 0.2 degrees by 2100, by the year 2100. So day one, January 20th, he signed an executive order that pulled us out. Second time he's done it. Biden rejoined in 2021. Trump killed it again. Mm-hmm. So, but there are some super chats here if you want to
see that. Like the thing that and the only thing I would say about this is like, I'm not saying these are good deals. I'm not saying Iran deal was good, not saying climate accord was a good deal. I'm saying that the bigger issue, which should supersede all of this, is that if the American president previous put us in a binding agreement with another country, you can't pull us out of it. You can't fucking do it. Because then when you end up in a
I'm
situation
glad
like this,
you said that yesterday. You were like, that is not good leadership.
it's
You
bullshit.
have to find a, yeah, it is. Yeah. I
'Cause
mean,
if
whether
you-
it's good or not, you got to figure out something else.
It's
Go ahead,
fucked
sorry.
because then and the reason that we do that is because we think we can just steamroll them by bullying them economically or with the military. And the thing is, like, yeah, that's worked for a while, but like, what happens when you find a situation that you can't bully your way out of, like right fucking now? And so like now we need to bring them to the table, and whether we get a deal done or not, I don't care what is announced publicly. I'm telling you, the end result of this is going to be a massive hit to America's influence, especially in the Middle East. We can't do shit with Iran ever again, because now we know they'll just close the strait and they've got us by the balls. Simple as that.
I agree.
Oh,
and
I'm
that's
sorry, what was the super chat?
Oh, it's okay. I'm going to pull it up right now. But also to what you're saying is that it ruins any trust. They're not like,
Correct.
they just destroy any trust.
It makes us look so bad. And then and again, what I was talking about, the more human level, like in Afghanistan, where we tell these fucking people that work for like the local police or whatever, that if they change sides and they work against the Taliban for the United States, and we promise them that we'll protect them and their families, even if the United States pulls out, and then we betray those people and leave them there, and then their fucking families get murdered in front of them, and then they get murdered. That shit, that's like the one thing that I will hear that makes me fucking ashamed to be a citizen of this country. Like, fuck that shit, man.
We've done it over and over again. Every time we go into a country and then work with dissidents or whatever, it just leave them, hang them out to dry.
And the people who make those promises, they don't know. They think they're making a legitimate promise. They're not doing it on purpose.
And then from up top, they just pull the plug. It's just so. All right. So this one is yours. Nene Faxon, 1698, $5. A pardon would not stop the death threats and assassination attempts. I believe Trump found out what was going to happen from Bibi. He helped CK hide.
I have entertained this, that it could very well be part of what was going on for sure. Yeah. Cause I mean, obviously Bibi and Israel had a huge motive.
Yeah. Yeah. We did talk about that earlier on. If you want to go back and check it out. This one.
Never.
Yeah.
Oh, when I said there was a way, I don't know if they're referencing that, but I did say.
I don't know if we cover that. You and I have talked about it. I mean, did you ever come to that? Like how
I
you
never
could actually.
I never talked to you. You're the only person I've talked. You and one other person I've ever talked to about what the actual plan is. I've never talked about it publicly, and I won't. But there is a way that he could do it, but there's only one, and it's definitely not him pretending to be the second coming of Jesus or anything like that. It's not. It's not like a religious thing, but there's only one way to make it work, and even that has landmines to it. But most likely, he will never come out under any circumstances.
Yeah, I think people that are like, why, like not even entertaining that. You have to understand that nobody's saying that he's going to come back, and that none of this that we're talking about has anything to do with that. It just has to do with trying to figure out the reality of what we're looking at. How can we're trying to explain, or Jesse is trying to explain what we are looking at. And if you can somehow open your eyes past the actual shot, or what they say is the shot, what we saw on X, that they don't even show anything like that ever. Why show that? And then you go back and look at how every single person is reacting. Once you told me that, bro, it's like, and you can't explain it other than that.
And here's the thing is like the people who have a hard time with it, how do you reconcile the complete and total lack of blood after the initial very grotesque, like I've seen plenty of videos of guys getting shot. I'm not an expert, like some SF guys who have like been deployed and see tons of people get shot. but I've seen plenty of videos of people getting shot, and I've never seen blood explode out of a person's neck like that ever. And common sense would assume that if that's the level of blood that is coming out on the way down, that there's going to be a lot of blood around, and there's none. And on the guys that are supposedly working on him, who would have been giving him CPR, packing the wound, no blood on their hands, no blood on their shoes, no blood on the way from where he was shot to the car, no blood anywhere. And then also, it was a 30-06. Like, in any, you know, I mean, that's been talked about ad nauseum. It's like, where's the exit wound? Because that's impossible. Like, and when I say impossible, there's only one answer to that, and that would be if someone packed their own 30-06 round and put like 25% of the normal powder in, so it's going way slower than a normal round. That's the only way that you can explain it. Otherwise, it goes through it like a t-shirt. It's like it's just. So those are just like physics things. And then in the video that I covered, where I show, like in episode 2, I literally show a Hollywood special effects guy from a video 4 years before this incident. This is not like something that someone's all, check out what I did. And he shows, it's like, this is how we do blood effects. And he shows and the guy in the video, it's a dude who's getting his throat cut. And so it's literally a neck blood expulsion, identical to the one that you saw from Charlie. And it looks exactly like what we saw. And then he explains how they do it. And it shows tubes that go around, like tubes that go around around the shirt and then whatever. And there's a connection that's right on the back, like on the kind of near like the inside right shoulder blade. And then they show Charlie, and in multiple pictures, you can actually see what looks like a hose that is like literally you're looking at them side by side. You're like, that's the same. And so it's like, all of this stuff is just coincidence that like you have, it's like, anyway, like,
well,
I don't know, like, just on just the first question, how does anybody reconcile the total lack of blood?
For sure. Because here, and this is, I just said, if there was a gunshot wound by a bullet to the jugular, what would happen? A gunshot wound directly to the internal jugular vein is critical, life-threatening emergency, primarily due to exsanguination and airway compromise. Unlike an artery, which pumps blood under high pressure, the jugular, which it was clearly that exact location on the jugular, is a low-pressure vessel that carries black blood to the heart, but is large enough that a breach causes rapid, lethal hemorrhage, profuse bleeding, expanding hemotema, air embolism. Because their pressure in the jugular can be lower than atmospheric pressure, air can be sucked into the vein through the wound. These air bubbles can travel to the heart and cause a fatal blockage. From what we've seen, and when we saw, it was like that first stream, but you have to remember there's 7 pints of blood, 7 to 8, something like that, which is 2 gallons of blood. And what came out, was only maybe a pint immediately, but then nothing on the ground, nothing on people around him, no spread around anywhere.
Oh, and the
audience would have been spread.
Yeah, we just remembered, like I actually just remembered that we just saw the pictures of the inside of the vehicle also, and there's barely any, there's like a smear on like a magazine, there's a little bit like on the carpet. So again, in the car he was transported in, also no blood. Is because he's connected, maybe he's connected to a tube that is creating the blood effect with a compressed air thing. And what the security guys who jumped over the table and surrounded Charlie so no one could see what they're actually doing, almost like, what they're actually doing is unhooking him from all of that stuff. And then, then they pick him up and they take him. That's why their expressions are like, I look like this is totally normal, as opposed to me frantically worrying about the principle that we're responsible for having getting blown up right in front of us. You know what I mean?
Keats, what's up, bro? Just to answer that, because I hear that a lot too. Shrapnel hitting the jugular vein would cause many of the same life-threatening effects as a bullet. When you have that, it doesn't matter what actually pierces the jugular. It is so gruesome. It's not going to just pour out like a stream. It will be
one stream and then stop.
Yeah, no. It would be profuse, like it said, profuse hemorrhaging. Do you know hemorrhaging what it means? It is like the most severe, gruesome, wet. Like what you
They're
see
gonna
in the
bleed out.
movies is light compared to what it is. I've seen hemorrhaging before. Okay, my dad's arm got blown off in an artery, whatever, and I saw the. It is so gruesome when I saw that, and I remember looking back on that because I've seen this in real life, even though it was in the neck. Imagine it just being an arm in what I saw. Where
Tell
it's
them
just like,
how much blood there was afterwards.
there was no blood afterwards. There was hardly any. It was
for your
just
dad, like when your dad's thing happened.
oh my gosh, bro! It was everywhere. It was everywhere. And so I'll tell the short story I'll tell a short version. So I was about 6 or 7, and we had a pool in the backyard, and my dad wanted to somehow make the chemicals more efficient in the pool. And there's a box where you would put chemicals in, you tighten the top, and then you would put some chemicals in the pool. So this is 30 years ago. And he said, well, let me try to, in his mind, he's thinking, this is what he told me later, let me try to put these all in the box to filtrate it out through the whole pool more efficiently. Well, he wasn't accounting for chemistry. So as soon as I saw it happen, as soon as he tightened the top, it was a bomb that just exploded. And he flew back. His arm was just hanging by vein and skin, and it was shooting in all directions and pouring out onto the ground. All right. And then he got was shocked. He looked at his arm, started freaking out. He got up with his other hand and ran through to the gate. And it's just puddles of blood all the way to the gate, all over the gate, shooting onto the gate, and then all the way in through the backyard into the house. I mean, it's everywhere.
Did he tourniquet? Did he put a tourniquet on it?
My mom was a nurse, so yeah, he actually got into the bathroom, and by the time he got in the bathroom, he passed out. She tourniqueted it, but there's all over the house, the tile. Yeah, saved his life. Yeah. And actually, they were able to. We call it the claw. We make fun of him now, but they were able to sew it on, and so he still has it, but it's not functional. It is functional, but not like it was before. And so when you see just that. And then a jugular shot was supposed to be a 30-06 would actually blow off his head. Then to me, and I've never told that story, I don't think publicly, is that when I see that, I know what this stuff looks like. I've never been in war. But I've seen a brutal hemorrhaging, and this was not it, right?
People who have never seen it, it's like the thing that every person who sees something like that for the first time says. I always listen to that, like with random stuff, like with UFOs, they all comment that the thing made no noise. That's like the thing that like imprints itself. And with wounds or injuries or gunshots or whatever, they all always say the same thing. They say, you can't believe how much blood is in the body. Like there's so much blood. They just can't even fucking wrap their brain around it because people have never seen something like that. And so
imagine taking a gallon of milk and 2 of them and pouring it on the floor in your kitchen. All right. It would fill your whole kitchen. It would, if you have a decent kitchen, not huge, but I mean, it still would go everywhere. And then the thickness of it, and then the viscosity, it's
like
brutal,
maple syrup that's not sticky. It's like,
it's brutal.
Yep.
It's
and there's
not that
nothing.
we saw.
There's no blood. Like, so it's just like when people are like, Jesse, you're crazy. I'm like, how do you? So like with Blake, or, like if you really wanted to do that, all I was going to do is I was just going to keep asking him the questions that I know no one can answer. Be like, how do you explain the lack of blood? And then he tried to just like, how do you explain it though? Like, how do you explain this is like you saw what kind of injury it is. How is there no blood? Oh, the blood, the heart stopped pumping. Why would the heart stop pumping if why would the heart stop pumping? The way that he would have died is he would have bled out. Right. Like that's how you die from that. You bleed out.
Because it wasn't a heart shot to stop the heart. Now I've seen the electrocution theory, and like maybe it was multiple things at once with the
even if it is the shape charge, like the shape charge under the shirt, you're still looking at catastrophic wounds causing bleeding, and ultimately he would bleed out. If there's no blood on the shirt, there's no like internal shot that hit him in the heart, or else his shirt would be covered with blood. Like.
Which I always wondered, why didn't they do that if they're gonna fake it? You know what I mean? Why not? Why do it there in such?
I can answer that here. Let me show. I'll show you exactly why. Hold on.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because of this, dude. Okay. They're operating off of the Snake Eyes movie, and this is where Charles Kirkland got shot in that movie. Can you see it?
Yeah.
In the exact place that Charlie Kirk was shot. Not like, oh, weird, it was also a neck shot. The identical spot on the neck is where Charles Kirkland was killed in the movie Snake Eyes. Identical. Absolutely identical. Charles Kirkland is the name of this character. Okay.
Do you think they're really following that script? Like, I mean,
sure.
it seems crazy that not to. It seems so. I've seen the movie after
it
this.
Seems reckless to do it like that. And then look, hey, the Atlantic City executioner Tyler. And then look, September 10th. Okay. Yeah. And then the guy who gets shot is Charles Kirkland. This is from a 1998 movie. And then, in case you thought it was a little bit weird that Erica Kirk, who supposedly just had her husband get murdered in front of everyone, when she did her first speech and then his memorial, not wearing black. And what was she wearing? This exact fucking outfit. This is what she's wearing on both. Okay. And there's a lot more to the Snake Eyes stuff, but one of the key things to take away is the support, the key support, it's a Nicolas Cage and Gary Sinise. And Gary Sinise has a foundation called the Gary Sinise Foundation. And who is the co-founder or helped him found that fucking foundation? Stacey Sheridan, dude. It's like, it's right in front of you. And the movie's tagline is believe everything except your eyes. And it takes place in the Taj Mahal Hotel in Atlantic City that was owned by Trump. Okay.
That's crazy.
Like,
it's so many.
It's dude, like there's two options: foretold by God, or they were doing it based on the movie. And it's like one of those intelligence operations things. And like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one of two options, or we're in a simulation and like whatever simulation thing put this all in there, which is kind of when I first saw this, I still wasn't at like they faked it. I learned all the stuff that was in it and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, and I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. I was like, what? It's like, so yeah. In the film, Charles Kirkland is shot in the neck on September 10th, and the shooter is identified as Lincoln Tyler, and his nickname is Tyler the Executioner. 30 years later, he's got, and I mean, there's way more stuff than this from that movie. And wait, hang on, hold on, that's it.
Oh, the white dress. Remember you were saying?
That's exactly what I was just talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then there you go, the white dress. There you go.
Yeah.
And then so you got, here's the blonde from Snake Eyes, and then here's Erica at the supposed memorial. And the much lesser known, shout out to Jamie for finding this for me, by the way. So there was a deleted scene. You can take it off now, but like there's a deleted scene of this movie that was actually it was the original ending. And when they screened it for test audiences, they fucking hated it. And so they reshot and changed the ending. But the original ending, okay, which plays back also, there was a hurricane throughout the movie that is like going on throughout the fight, and it's called Hurricane Jezebel, okay? And if you guys remember the story about how these witches put a hex on Charlie Kirk, very like right before, where did that happen? In Jezebel magazine. And if you Candace looked into it, Jezebel magazine was created 4 months before this event. Hurricane Jezebel magazine. And the original ending to the movie, which they changed, was that the hurricane caused this massive tsunami that came in and wiped away the entire boardwalk and knocked out everything. So like, that's the end. Is a fucking, after all this crazy, like international stuff, a tidal wave came in and just like knocked them all off out of nowhere. And the test screeners hated it, but it was the original like meaning of the ending is when things get so corrupt, like they get so corrupt that God will wash everything off of the map so that we can reset. And if you think about what I believe was the actual purpose of what they were doing here, aside, because I focus on the prison thing because I know that is like a very big, but if you think about it through the eyes of the people who are involved and why they believe they're doing something good, and then you think the original, part of the end is wash away all of the corruption so we could start anew. There you go.
That's true. Yeah, this person does bring up something, the compartment under him where someone could fit, because I did see the one image. I think Ian either went there or saw.
Hey, take me off the screen just for 2 seconds.
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, what's up?
You're good. Go ahead. There was a compartment under him where someone could fit. When he was shot, he bounced up. The blood spewed straight down. It doesn't work that way when it comes to, I mean, I can't say for sure, right? But the way physics works, the way blood spatter works, it wouldn't just go straight down into that. But I do think it is strange that there is that hole there. What Ian, I think it was Ian Carroll, showed that was a tunnel where pipes, either pipes or hosing, would go and actually go in different directions underneath the property, which I thought was kind of interesting. So another thing to lead to that is they paved over the cement. And so why do that, right? That's another thing I want to ask Jesse about when he comes back, is why pave over the cement? Grandma Karen, I'm going to answer this question you put in the QA. If you do have questions, you can put in the QA on my account, on my channel. We have a QA open. This is from Grandma Karen. Don't you think Boston wanted the U.S. bases gone so they could take over countries? I think that this could be part of the plan. It's that whole scenario with Israel and the war in Iran and the Middle East and the GCC. What it seems like is, and what I've been reading and what they've even stated themselves and what their actions are, is they're trying to take over a plot of land, that whole area. And when you come to that whole area of being taken over by Israel, I think that they do want to have the sole power over there. I just can't wrap my head around us giving them nearly $1 trillion and them us being controlled. It feels to me like they are maybe a scapegoat doing our bidding, but then we see so much against our country's interests. So that whole thing is very, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
I've got like 10 minutes max, and then I have to get out of here. We're doing stuff. But so if they're like super chats or anything high priority, like
yeah,
let's do it.
Christy, that's from you. Good afternoon, family truth seekers.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Christy. This one is me here. Let's say Candace, not all wonders are lost. 499. Let's say Candace did find out later. Maybe her job is to expose things to taint the jury.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
To make sure.
I actually hadn't even thought of that. Brilliant. And then have her go after TPUSA, because that ensures no one will see what's actually happening, because everyone would assume there's no way they're in league together, right?
Yeah, I did think about Candace maybe having some type of way to disrupt the whole situation, but that is a very good one. I know. I think
it's unlikely though, only because what she's actually doing is pointing people in the direction of something that I believe they did do. It's not a murder. You know what I mean? But it's not. But yeah. That's a very smart theory though. That yeah.
Spawn 303, Operation Northwoods, Paperclip, Bluebeam, MK Ultra, JFK. Charlie killed isn't too far fetched. It's in our CIA history.
No, I mean for sure. Not like yeah.
Nothing's off the table with that. Yeah. With that. Right?
I mean, Charlie killed is the accepted what actually happened.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just like, if you take for granted that this number of people at TPUSA were involved, which I believe is essentially indisputable at this point, and your options are, well, if we know for sure that they were involved, and I'm not saying that in terms of a statement of fact that I can get sued over, but I'm saying if I'm taking for granted for sure they were involved based on Mikey McCoy and Erica's behavior and all these different things, and then you're like, okay, well, now your options are, would they have faked it or would they have actually killed Charlie? And it's like, all right. And then it's like, oh, there's no blood. There's no fucking blood at all. There's absolutely no blood. And you're like, oh, wow, that seems like a pretty big factor to consider. And it's like, oh, and by the way, every single detail from that day is an exact mirror of a fucking movie about a guy named Charles Kirkland who got shot that was made in 1998. And Stacey Sheridan co-founded a foundation with the co-star of that movie. It's like, how do you fucking explain that? You know what I mean?
You can't. Crystal, she's a member and she's in my Discord, so I did want to throw this up. You mentioned the ends justified the means. Can you please explain that statement? Do you remember saying that?
Okay, so if you set a paradigm where you believe that whoever wins, whatever you would consider this conflict to be, so you have two groups of people, and what is going to be the result is either America is going to fall, and it's going to fall because a group of people is going to intentionally break the foundation of American families and take people's kids from them and brainwash them into horrific, destructive ideas. And they're going to destroy the feeling that God exists and God is here and all knowing and working on behalf of humanity. You're going to destroy that on purpose. Okay. Like, I consider that pure evil. And on the other side, you have a group that is trying to fight for the exact opposite. They want to fight to make sure that the family remains intact, that people are responsible for their own children, and that the right types of values are instilled in children so that they don't go do OnlyFans and they don't have sex with 1,000 people before they're married. And they don't think that, like, you know, that they could just become a girl because they're going to get whatever if they're a boy. And all of these ideas that I find to be repulsive, evil, and intentionally destructive. If you got two groups that are fighting, I think that the ends justify the means, no matter what you have to do to win, if you're on the side that is trying to promote family values and keep people who want to take your children from you from winning.
I agree. Let me see here. All right, let me get to.
But to be clear, really quick though, just to be clear, when I'm talking about what their goals are and what their plan was, to be crystal clear, it did not work. Like this plan unraveled. Like, they did not accomplish what the intended goal was. They made huge mistakes that have now led to a very different timeline than what they believed would happen if they did this, just to be clear.
Yeah, very much so. As unraveled is a nice way of putting it. Christy, again, $2. We need a national town hall and revolt. You know, a lot of people say, how do we make changes? I don't think it's by voting in the right person, because I think lobbying ruins all of that. I think that we need to ban lobbying, you know, town hall, revolt.
But that is by voting. I agree with you. But the only way to get that through is by voting with very specific intentions. Like, dude, Dan Crenshaw, gone. Why? He's gone because he took AIPAC money and he was a very visible person. Like, that is a key visibility now that they're going to have to deal with, because anyone who takes AIPAC money, the other side is just going to go AIPAC, and they're like, they'll lose. Like, they'll fucking lose.
That's going to be a big thing when they're contending for the next seats. $2 for the beautiful mods. Thank you, Christy. Tanya, please drop Patreon and Discord links. I do have a banner here. So I've got Dankster Intel, patreon.com/original Dankster. You can find me and Jesse both on X, IG, YouTube. Mine's Venmo and Cash App. I also have a Patreon, but I'm going to be moving myself over to a website to be announced soon. There's going to be other creators. Jesse will also be having a privatized community coming out soon as well on Discord. So that'll I'll let him announce that when time comes. So you can find us there. And then what else? I think we have one more. I'm sorry, I called Jesse.
Oh, that's funny, dude.
That's a good way to end it.
They're either definitely from my community or new to my community, because anyone from my community knows I'm gonna laugh at that fucking joke 100 out of 100 times.
I saw Death. The name is Death Queef 69.
That's funny, dude.
They were in my show yesterday, and I laughed so hard at the name. So it looks like you might have a new fan here.
Nobody gets it. Like, no one's gonna hurt my feelings. I think it's funny when people make fun of me, dude.
Yeah, I hear you. I've been through way too much to let any online comment bother me at all.
Real life comments can't hurt my feelings, unless it comes from my wife. My wife can hurt my feelings.
Yeah, same here. You don't want that from the wife. I do want to say one thing that has been bothering me is there's somebody, I'm not going to say who they are because they don't deserve the credit of being said on this show, but they said because we're talking about this theory about Charlie, we are basically backing the interest of Israel. Like, how could somebody take this and us siding on the saying
Okay.
that we are like what kind of thinking is that, and why would like
Because
I don't
they
even know
think-
why I mentioned it, but
I know
I
exactly
guess
what
it
they're
does
saying.
bother me.
They're saying that the overarching movement is to pin this on Israel, and by saying that Charlie's alive, then that means Israel didn't murder Charlie, and so we're actually operating on behalf of Israel, which is, I mean, I understand their logic, but it's just like,
Yeah.
I think because here's the thing. Let's say that they did do it, right? Well, at the same time, they just walked us into a war that is literally going to cost us more than people can even fathom. And it's like, let's just focus on the things I know for sure that they did over here. Or
Yeah.
I think they probably did over here versus like things that are complete. There's no evidence at all. Like there's no actual evidence that they did anything. There's proof of motive, an overwhelming amount of proof of motive. But that doesn't mean shit. Like there's overwhelming proof of motive, and then also overwhelming common sense of why they would not have done it this way if they wanted to whack out Charlie. They might have wanted to whack out Charlie, and that's why they juked it or whatever. Or maybe we have the whole thing wrong. But anyway, that's why I think.
Well, I really appreciate your
gotta jump.
logic and the way you think, bro. And much love to you. Thanks for joining over here and on this side of the internet. And,
Yeah, dude. Thanks for
I'll talk
hanging
to you
out,
soon,
everybody.
man. Yeah, appreciate
right.
it. Guys,
Later,
like,
brother.
subscribe, everybody. See you guys later. And peace, bro. Cheers.